हे ऐकते ते सोहन मोडकच्या डेथ बद्दल नंतर ते सगळ्या जगभरातल्या लोकांचा ग्रुप केलाय आणि आता 5-5 मिनिटं 20 लोक बोलणार आहेत. त्यात बथा बोलणार आहे. तो सोहन मोडक हिरो वारला ना आमचा 82 वर्षाचा खेड.
Mr. Ackley. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Yeah. Just give Chaitanya a few minutes. He's coming.
Sure. How are you, Mahendra?
Doing well.
I don't know the others, but yeah, I'm part of the 98 batch, 96, 98 batch. My name is Mahesh. Raghu comes in here because officially my name is Raghu. So I'm going to rename it to Mahesh for others to understand. And I will make it 1996.
Mahendra, I just made you co-host.
Thank
Raghu,
you.
hi.
Hey man, I'm Mahesh for you, so don't worry.
Raghu, Mahesh, आप नाम बाकी कुछ भी हो, rose smells just as good. Okay, in a bit, give me a second.
That was too.
Nice to meet you, Raghu, Mahesh. I'm Ruta. My name is spelled R-I-T-A, but it's Ru. It's only people who know Marathi will know that.
Yeah.
And I'm class of 1990. So we were just the 4th class of biotechs to pass out of that department.
Fantastic.
And great to see everyone. I see some familiar names, Eddie and Bertha, and let's see. Oh, Saroj Khaskarbi is there too. Wonderful to see.
Saroj ma'am is there on the call?
Yeah, I mean, I see her name. She has a kitten is her.
Hey, good boy, sir. Namaste.
Oh, yes. Namaste, sir. Hi, Saroj.
I didn't see Saroj ma'am, so panel maybe.
Here, Mahesh.
Hi, Surendra sir.
Hi. Don't call me Surendra sir, just Suren is fine.
Hi, Surendra. Where's Saroj?
She's here, yeah, you can see. She's there very much.
I'm waving at you.
Saroj madam, Vaishali.
Hi.
Hi, Vaishali.
Hi, sir.
I need to change my.
Namaskar, Godbole sir.
Raghu, you may need to. I don't know if you have everyone
Yeah,
on
my gallery now, so I can see. Yes, I can see Saroj. Yes. Such an amazing thing to see you all. I did visit the department twice, but I think you were similar. I met Vivian, I met Nath sir, and I brought my daughter to the department to show her that this is where I studied, and I think after 2 weeks of that, my daughter and my wife bumped into Sohan at Ratna Hospital. So, 2 minutes to go. Anupam is there on the call? Nahi re, Anupam.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Evening. Hi, Surinder.
Hi, Kannan. Hi, welcome.
It was taking a bit of time to log in, looks like. There was some
Yeah.
technical problem, I think. Yeah, now I got it. Yeah.
Hello, this is Vivek Verma.
Hi, Vivek.
Hi, Saroj. How are you?
No, this is Ruta.
Oh, Inuta. Not bad. Good to see you here.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Rajendra. Rane.
Oh,
Mute.
where is
your-
he?
Rajendra, you are on mute. Rani, you are on mute.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Rajendra. Where are you nowadays?
I'm in Bangalore.
Where in Bangalore?
I mean, I stay in Bangalore. I stay in a place called Sanjay Nagar.
I also stay in Bangalore. I also stay in a place called Bomasandra. So that's why I'm just asking.
Okay.
Everybody. Hello, sir. Good morning. Dr.
Good morning.
Godbole.
Good evening, Bertha.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Dr. Kanan.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Good to
How
see
are you?
everybody.
Hi, Rajendra. Hi, Bertha.
Hi.
Hi, Suren.
Hi.
Hi, Bertha. Hi, Suren.
Hi.
Sadhna.
Sadhna, where are you?
Here.
There.
Adnan.
Looks like Saroj has a cat.
Sangeeta.
No, Saroj has joined from, she's in the other room.
Oh, okay.
So that at least this evening we don't fight.
Hi, Bertha.
I thought the cat shows that you are fighting.
Hey, Naren. Naren is on mute.
Hey, Rajendra. Hey,
Hi.
Rani.
Hello, everyone. Just one quick thing. So it's already past 7, but we will wait for another couple of minutes because people are still joining.
And
Right.
I think we will all go on mute.
Mahendra,
once you start
they may
talking.
be distributed globally, but this is Indian Standard Time, Baba.
We will all go on mute once you start speaking.
Hello, Vivek. This is Kumaran here. Remember
I
me?
think Chaitanya
Hey,
can put everybody on the mute so there is no confusion.
Hi, Kumaran, how are you?
I'm
Long
good,
time.
Dr. Kannan. Yes, sir. Good to see you.
I know. It's
Are you
nice to
still
get
in the US or back in India?
No, I'm back in India.
Okay. Which place?
Well, I'm in Faridabad.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So do you visit India?
I did last year, but yeah, it's been a couple
Next
of
time,
years.
let us know. We'll try to meet. We'll have a get together in Delhi.
Sure, Dr.
We
Kannan.
are quite a big crowd in Delhi also. So
Right. Your son is still in Riverside? Faculty?
no, he has now moved to Evanston.
I see. Illinois?
Not Illinois, Evanston, the what is the Northwestern University.
I see.
Hi everyone. I can see many people that I know. Joint Pal.
Hey, Dr. Pal.
Yeah.
Sadhna.
Where is he?
How are you all?
Fine, fine. Thank you.
Very nice meeting you.
Hi, Dr. Pa.
Hello. Yeah.
Bharataya.
Hello, Dr. Kannan.
Hello, how are
Hi,
you?
Firoz.
Fine.
I know you are Cynthia's sister.
Yes.
Hi all, this is Firoz and Manju.
Hi, Firoz.
Hi, Mata.
No, this is Sadhna. Hi, Manju.
Firoz Manju, hi. This is Suren.
Long time.
Long time, yes.
Hello,
And
Dr. Godbole. Yes,
Hello, how are you?
Fine, fine.
How are you?
Hi, God bless sir.
Oh,
कैसे हैं?
seeing after so many years,
Yes.
your faces start looking, very different.
Yeah, we are aging too, Dr. Godbole.
Hello, Bertha. This is Kumaran. I don't know if you recall me, but I think I know that you are in Tennessee, right?
Yes, I am.
Very good. You're still in the hospital?
Yes, at Vanderbilt. Yes.
Excellent, excellent.
Hi.
Yeah. My
How are
son
you?
graduated from there long time back.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. So maybe we'll meet again. You still?
Sure, we will. Now that we are all getting reconnected like this.
Yes, it's a good thing. Yeah,
Definitely.
Rakesh Banka had mentioned to me about you
Yes,
being
I
in
ran
the
into
hospital.
him one time when he came to install some instrument.
Oh, I see. Mhm.
Yes.
Very nice. Good to see you, and hope you can see me.
Sorry, just
Yes,
want to
yes.
interject quickly. How many of you had a problem in joining? Because some people are complaining. I think web link is working well, as I understand. Is that the impression you have?
No, the
Mahendra is
problem
asking for
is,
commercial Zoom.
yeah, not only that, it is
Have a
asking for
license.
email and all that.
Yeah. So it's asking for
Email and
professional
password and
license.
all that.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem. It just asked to put in a password, and that was in the email.
That didn't
So-
appear in ours.
So I might suggest that,
Zoom directly.
yeah, unfortunately, this conversation is not used to. Yeah, in the WhatsApp, maybe join.zoom.us should do the job, but I am.
No, actually, Shilpa just sent me. I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Shilpa or Miss Shilpa. She sent me a link, and that worked like a charm. I just had to press the link, and it went through.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Shilpa,
This is
maybe.
what we are recommending people to use the link.
Yeah.
But some
But
people
I think, Mahendra, I think, hi, this is Adish. For me, it told me that I need to log in, which means I think people who already have a Zoom account can get in smoothly, is my guess. Those
And you
who are
need-
not signed in, probably it asks them to sign in.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
You can join through Gmail account. Everybody has Gmail now,
Okay,
right?
perhaps, right.
Adish, can you post a message on the WhatsApp group so that people can read
Yeah, I'll
it?
do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so it is true that if you have a Zoom account, you can join, and that's what it prompted us to do. So Manju has a Zoom account, so it went in very smoothly.
Yeah, you have to have a Zoom account. Then it's very easy. All you do is meeting code and a password. That's all. It asks for a Vmail only if you go to without downloading Zoom.
Could anyone log in at all without the account? Is there anyone here?
Yeah. Saroj logged in
Yes.
like that. Say independent. Yes.
Oh. So Saroj, was it just that simple link? Was that
Just
what
the
it
simple link which you sent, I used that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Even
Because
Vidya Patwardhan also used the same one. It worked for her.
I think a lot of people are facing the same problem. So I'm sorry we're delayed because of that. I'm trying to just solve this. I am going to start because I don't want this to. I think there's a question here from Rona.
Chaitanya, I had comment. Maybe this has to do with the restrictions that you may have set, in the sense that perhaps there is, when you set up a Zoom meeting, there is an option which says allow
Without
anybody and
logins
everybody
and
to
so on,
join,
yeah,
or
yeah.
or allow anybody to join with the link.
Yes. Let me just see if I have made that kind of a crazy setting. Yeah, I can do
But
that in a second.
Chaitanya, you have to be careful because Zoom meetings are often bombed in India. So you have
I know.
to be careful.
I know.
I faced it myself because
this is my official work one, so I usually try to keep the settings a bit stringent. That makes sense. Let me see if I can change this. But while I do that, so I'm sorry, we are going to have a few people who will be unfortunately unable to join for a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to say just a word because I have already basically overshot my own.
Chaitanya, sorry, perhaps you can wait for another 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe after giving these fresh instructions, maybe they'll be able to join.
Sounds good.
Huh? Just a couple of minutes, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that also helps me to try to see if I can maybe change the settings that that I think Adish was talking about.
So they can see you, they can hear you.
Speaker.
Is also one minute.
नहीं खलते.
Hello.
Hello, this is Khan.
Oh, Dr. Khan.
Welcome,
Hello.
Khan.
Where is
How are you,
Dr.
Kannan?
Khan?
Good. How are you?
Welcome, Sharmila.
Hi, Jia.
Hi, Shaurin. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Nice to see you. Yes. This occasion brought us together again. Good.
Welcome, Sharmila. And is Russia sitting behind?
Yeah, that's Russia, yes.
Hi.
Hi, Sharmila. Khan here.
I can't see you. Where are you?
Yeah.
You can't see? Yeah, can you?
Now
No, you are.
I want to see Russia. And Alap, where is Alap?
Hi, Sharmila.
Hi, Sharmila.
Yes.
Hi, Sharmila.
Hi, everybody.
Russia won't remember.
Yeah.
That is Alap. Okay.
Alap I have never seen. Sadhna here.
How are you, Sadhna?
Fine, thank you, Dr. Khan.
Here.
Yes.
Where
But the
is
script
Dr.
is...
Khan?
Yeah, I can't see.
Can't see Dr. Khan.
I think Dr. Khan's video is not working.
Yeah,
video
I
is
can't
not
see.
working?
Yeah.
No, we can't see you, sir.
Yes, stop your video maybe.
मेरा वीडियो काम नहीं कर रहा बोल रहे हैं.
बोल रहा है बोले तो
आवाज आ रही है आपकी.
आवाज बिल्कुल
रहा है बोले तो सच में नहीं कर रहे हैं तो हम क्यों बोलेंगे?
Just a minute, I'll tell my son. मेरा वीडियो काम नहीं कर रहा. देख रहे हैं. They are unable to see.
Your name is also coming as Zoom user.
Zoom user.
Yeah.
Yeah.
कहते हैं देखना भाई कहीं हैदराबाद से कोई बॉम्बिंग तो नहीं कर रहे हैं.
I think I leave that security part to you, Mahesh. I'm sorry. I think you are the expert on detecting and categorizing.
Wow, here is Professor Khan.
Hi. Now can you?
Yeah.
Kannan,
Welcome.
how are you?
Good.
Nice.
Hello, Zia.
Yes, Nana, how are you, Nana? So nice to see you. Heard your,
Okay, fine.
tributes.
Fine. Okay, going on. You can see how I am.
Yeah.
Jia is on some other planet.
Yes.
I think the instructions are working, so many people have started joining again.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, we already have 95 people, so not bad. Yeah.
So I just saw Anupam join because I think I was in a
Suren, where is Saroj?
minutes ago. So, yeah.
Saroj is in the other room. We don't sit in the same room so that we don't fight.
No, it causes.
Hello, Dr. Khan.
How are you?
Fine.
So I'm not getting your name, but face is familiar.
My name, Jayant Pal.
How are you, Jayant? Are you in touch with?
You forgot my name, is it?
No. The earlier face was, not yours. Yes.
Earlier face was
बट
different.
खान सर आपको सच में समझ गया क्या जयंत पाल कौन है क्या ऐसे ही बोल रहे हैं
Yeah. We haven't met for a few years now, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Khan. How are you? This is Kumaran, 87, 89 batch.
Yeah. Yes, your beard,
Yes, you used to supervise our dancing. Thank you.
Yes.
Make sure you keep us
I
in
know.
line.
In all the crowd, you're jumping, you
I know.
go up above everybody. That was fantastic.
Khan, I didn't
In
know
the
you had
museum
that.
hall.
Dr. Khan, I didn't know that you had that expertise too.
Hello, everybody. This is Seema here, Biotech 91-93 batch. My respects to Dr. Godbole, Saroj ma'am, Bertha, Khansa.
Yeah,
Lovely
thank
to
you.
see everybody here.
Thank you. Thank you. Seema.
Hi,
Yes.
Seema.
Hello.
Hi.
I don't know if you remember me. Seema, hi. This is Aditi, your junior.
Oh, hello.
Aditi, yes,
Hello,
yes.
Aditi. Hello. No, I
Yes.
saw some of the, some names. Everybody just, it was just fantastic, I mean, although the occasion is a sad one, but it's lovely to just touch base with the alma mater. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. This is Arvinder.
Hey, Arvinder.
Hi,
Hi, Arvinder. This is
Hi,
Sadhna.
Shubhala. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Shubhda.
Dr. Paul. Good morning. Good
morning.
Dr. Godbole. Good morning.
Arvinder, I didn't
Cannot see
recognize.
Arvinder,
Where is
are you?
Arvinder? I remember the
I'm
volleyball.
here. Yes,
Yeah,
I always
volleyball,
remember.
You.
Arvinder, I remember the pork pickles that your father bought once. Apartment. It's fantastic.
I don't remember that.
Oh, you don't?
Where are you, Arvinder?
There, Arvinder. She comes on.
Next to Sadhana. I'm next.
Hi Arvind.
Surendran Haskarbi, how are you?
I'm good. Surviving.
We had a century of participants now. We should start.
Yeah, perhaps we can.
Exactly. So Chaitanya, maybe we can start, and I will let people in as they join. So you may
Hi,
start.
Arvinder. I see you now.
Okay. Hi, Firoz.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank
Firoz.
you. How are you? Hi, Ram Datar.
Firoz, you're looking like Tata.
Hi everyone, this is Shubhada here. Hi Sharmila. Hi.
Nice to see you, Shubhada. Nice to
see you, Dr. Khan, Dr. Paul,
Yeah.
Dr. Godbole, Saroj, Suren, and everyone else.
Oh, nice to meet you again.
I can't see Dr. Khan. I saw everybody else. I can't see Dr. Khan. And Saroj
I
ma'am,
disappeared.
with whom you
No, you're there. You can't recognize Dr. Khan, maybe.
Yeah.
There he is.
No. Now can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Yes. Okay, but I look different. I know.
No, you look like you're on a different planet. That's
yes.
And you have developed a hello.
Oh, Dr. Khan, I can see you now, Khan sir.
Correct.
Yeah, Saroj ma'am's camera is off, I think. Gaskandi sir, I can see.
This is
Yes.
Chaitanya. I forgot your
Saroj
surname.
is not
Chaitanya.
on video. Saroj is not
Chaitanya
on video.
Atle, 96, 98. Hi. So I am sorry. I'm going to. I think this is so exciting to see so many people here, and that such a sad occasion perhaps of the demise of our former teacher and to many people friend has brought us together. So Mahendra and I talked about this some days ago, and we felt strongly that along with the fact that it is tragic that his family first and we have lost someone so marvelous in our lives, at the same time he brought so much joy to us that being together will hopefully highlight the things we learned, things we enjoyed, and things we loved, and things that perhaps will make us be the bearers of that torch beyond his life. And I'm grateful for all of you for coming here. Namaskar, Saganna. I am Chaitanya Atle. I am based in Pune. And I'm thankful particularly to Mahendra to help me set this up, because without his help, we wouldn't be able to do this, because I think we all know how the days are going these days, despite the pandemic. For today, we have a rough schedule. We are going to be a little flexible with the time, and I hope you forgive us for that a little bit. We're not going to run a science conference today, and we're not going to ring any bells, but just so that everyone gets to say something. Yeah. Have put a schedule together. Those of you who are on this schedule, if you can come maybe 5 minutes around the time that we have scheduled you, then that will help, because we'll keep a sort of sequence in place. I think I saw Rasia. I believe I saw Sharmila there. I'm not sure. And without further ado,
I'm very much there.
Hi Sharmila. I'm so happy to see you. I'm sorry. Well, all our
It's okay.
best.
We are here to celebrate everyone's
Yes.
life, so
Yes.
we'll keep that till,
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm
Don't
so
worry.
grateful that you're here.
Don't worry.
Thank you. And so I'm going to sort of just run through one slide. This is bad. I think the thing that I remember from SPM most is the fact that he had the ability to both scare and help us overcome our fear. And to me, one of the most important questions when I reflect on how he has influenced me is, did he ever scare me? Yes, he scared me. And did I learn from it? Absolutely. And I have enough anecdotes, and I will relate those maybe. But something that really struck me always when I saw his office was that this was a chaos. This had papers everywhere. So I feel that if he could do this, I can do this. So I imitate him, and I hope this does not, students who come to my office, they complain to me because they don't like it. And in my view, there were many challenges he threw at each of us in whatever role we were, were we students, whether we were students, whether we were friends. And I hope we can perhaps reflect on that from our own experience. And because for me, that reminds me that indeed what he did was push us outside our comfort zones. And I think this, I'll be very honest, to me, I imitate this. I imitate this in class. I'm also a teacher now, Dr. Godbole, Dr. Khan, all of you, Dr. Pal. I think so many of my old teachers are here. So yeah, the apple has not fallen very far from the tree. Anyway, so I'm going to stop yakking and pass the baton. I have rearranged things a little bit, if you don't mind. And the first of the people to speak after this is Anupam. So Anupam, please go for it. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's I remember it's 40 years now since the time that I first met SPM, and I think I remember his last message to me on Messenger just about maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. One of the things that I will strongly carry with me throughout my life is that every time that I had a conversation and I related with him as a teacher, as a family friend, and as a dear friend for 40 years. Sharmila was my classmate from my BSc days, and we have been together for a long time. And both Rasia and Alap are at similar ages as my children, and they have also got to know each other. And Sharmila and Arundhati, my wife, have also been good friends. So I think we have enjoyed this relationship. But one of the things that I value and cherish from SPM as we often called him, is the fact that he never, and as Chaitanya pointed out, he never allowed us to sit in a comfort zone. I don't ever remember him making me comfortable in 40 years. And perhaps I owe a lot to him for that fact that he allowed me to discover that it's all right to be uncomfortable. And it's that space of being uncomfortable is where the most learning takes place. It's also that space where magic can happen. And I think I remember the very first class where he looked into our eyes and challenged us to look back into his eyes. And I don't know how many of you have faced that in the class, but that's the most discomforting thing you can ever be challenged to do in a classroom. And from that point onwards, every journey with him was a challenge. It was not about comfort. And so in a lot of ways, I think he would want us to continue to challenge ourselves and those around us to do things which make ourselves uncomfortable, which put us out of our comfort zone and allow us to stretch and to learn and to be able to actually ensure that we create magic just as he did with all of us. So I hope today we will have some discomfort and we will challenge ourselves to some questions about what we learned during the discomfort. I think he also ensured that we would ask questions. So I remember another incident, another important thing that he would do. He would say, my next class is going to be about whatever it's going to be about. And if you don't have questions, I'm going to ask you questions. And I will ask them to the person who is most silent or looking away. And therefore, you never knew when he's going to come to you and he's going to ask you something that you have to explain. And because you had to be prepared for his class, you had to go and look up, start with the definitions, start with understanding what units are, start with recognizing the fact that everything is a convention. It's not something which is cut and written in stone. So we had to recognize that everything can be changed and molded the way you would like it to be, or that you want it to be. And you had to be able to reason it out. And therefore, it's important to first start with the fundamentals, rather than start and imagine the world in the final stage. Start with the basics and build your foundation very well. So that is something which was extremely important for him. So I think that's something, recognizing that all knowledge that we get and all assumptions that we make need to be challenged, and we need to ask questions about them, is something which he has left behind for me forever. And I think those around me always keep on saying that, why do you ask so many questions? And you keep challenging us all the while. You make us uncomfortable. I think it's something that I learned from SPM. And I really thank him for that spirit of, just wanting curiosity. He loved curiosity. He loved puzzles. He loved challenges. And not only that, he loved to have people who would challenge him around him. So he never sought people who would say yes to him. He hated people who would just say, yes, sir. So he wanted to have people who would make him uncomfortable. And he sought out the brightest people that he could find around who would continue to do that. And I remember, starting with all the people he assembled as his colleagues around him. And he would go through all kinds of obstacles to get the likes of Dilip Devbakkar, to get Ashok Kolaskar, to get, Sitaramam, to get Alok Bhattacharya and Sudha Bhattacharya, to ensure that Dr. Ullas Wagh would incubate his NCCS in the zoology department. All these people are not people who made him comfortable. They are people who challenged him. They've challenged his status quo. And it's not that he wanted that comfort, but he wanted that challenge. And he enjoyed that challenge very much. So I think it's extremely important to recognize that he loved that challenge. I remember when I came back in 1994 from Netherlands, he heard that I had got a PhD in system science, something totally different from zoology and molecular biology that I had done with him. And he sought me out and he said that I want you to revise the curricula we have for quantitative techniques for life sciences. And I said, okay. When I had revised the curriculum, he said, now you have to teach it. And I was shocked. And just like all he had done before and all he has done subsequently, it was taking me out of my comfort zone because I had never taught anybody at all. And as a consequence, when I stood before my first class, I didn't know where I was going to start. But if it hadn't been for this challenge, he would never have brought out the teacher in me. So if I teach today, it is because of Sohan Modak. And I really have my gratitude to him to have discovered or helped me discover that I can teach and that I can stand before a class and maybe inspire a few minds and few hearts in the process. Then I think one more thing that he exemplified in his life is that he showed us that there is no boundary between work and play. So for him, everything was a play. So I remember the numerous times he would visit me when I used to be in Goa from 2000 to 2005, especially when he went to Dharwad University to teach. He would stop by for a day or two and spend that time with me. We used to go out for lunch, dinner, sometimes I introduced him to all kinds of people, including Subodh Kerkar, the famous artist from Goa, many of the bureaucrats, some of the politicians from Goa, and of course, subsequently also introduced him to many friends like Raja Bellare. I think some of you know Raja, so you would know what their relationship was and what kind of a challenge they posed to each other. So it was not about comfort. It was about really, challenging each other and being creative and enjoying the process in all of it. He also, made sure that we realized that there should not be a difference between what you say and what you do. I don't know how many of you went through that experiment where we had to line up and go through saying how we are going to use a centrifuge, and then act out how to actually use a centrifuge. And if you missed or you said something different from what you did, you were back in the line. And Sharmila will remember we were in the queue from sometime in the midday to almost midnight. And he was looking at us, smiling with his, twinkle in his eyes as to how silly we are. And we can't actually say what we do and do what we say. And that etched in my mind so much. And it taught me something about the importance of saying what I do and doing what I say and trying to match that as much as possible. And especially those of us who do any research recognize the importance of doing that very much. So I think I am also grateful for this learning that I got from SPM. Also, I think it's important that we be very clear and reason well. So communication was very important for him. And he would insist that we have clarity about what we say and we reason well about whatever we are explaining or we are trying to get at. So that's something that I carry with me as much as possible and try to remember it every time I have to speak. At the same time, I think I see value in the chaos that he liked to create around him, because that allowed some kind of a chaotic order or an order out of chaos to evolve. And I think Chaitanya and I have been discussing a little bit about how can we create this chaos or this chaotic, emulation of what he may have done had he been here right now or wherever he is watching us from. How would he actually celebrate and tell us, challenge us to think about what did we learn from him? And maybe, I would like to challenge all of you to maybe say at least one sentence about what did you really learn and what was the most uncomfortable moment which he put you in that made you learn and get the deepest insight that has helped you in the years that you have been associated with him. So this is one question that I'm going to perhaps leave you with. And I would like you to join all of us together to celebrate this man who really helped us to learn so many things in life and discover the potential in ourselves. So thank you, Chaitanya, for giving me this opportunity to express myself.
Thank you, Anupam. And it's not mine to give. I think this is some kind of self-organized meeting. And I loved what you said, and I think I would love to discuss more. But for the moment, I'm going to actually just pass the baton on to Suren. Suren Gaskadbi, I think you're somewhere there.
Yeah, hi.
Sorry. And I may jump in, but I think we'll try to keep the sort of linear narrative.
I won't give you that opportunity.
Thank you.
Chaitanya, Mahendra, thank you very much for organizing this. Hello, everybody. I first came into Sohan's contact when he joined the Pune University in 1979. Soon after joining, he almost completely transformed the department with his infectious enthusiasm. He used to be in the department almost 24/7, and one of the first things that he did was to talk to us research students about modern biology. I remember him asking me to draw the structure of DNA on the board in his office. He asked almost every research student in the department to do the same, and after judging how much we knew, or rather we did not know, we had a series of late evening lectures on molecular biology. We were all completely stunned by his oratory, diction, body language, clarity of thought, and charisma. Even after 43 years, I vividly remember him explaining to us what used to be called the yo-yo model of chromatin structure. In a research career spanning 6 decades, Sohan contributed to several areas of modern biology. Mahendra has asked me to summarize it, but I'll just mention 2 or 3 of these due to paucity of time. Sohan had made original contributions to understand differentiation of eye lens cells. Mahendra has narrated this part very well in his message earlier, and I have borrowed it from that. Sohan was the first to show that DNA in terminally differentiated eye lens fibers undergoes degradation and developed an assay to label dying nuclei. For who do not, this is the same principle that's used in the Cunel assay today. Roche cited his original papers when they came up with the Cunel assay kit in the late 1990s. The term apoptosis was not coined when Sohan was working on nuclear degradation. It's rather fortunate that those who champion this term eventually. Can others mute themselves, please? The term apoptosis was not coined when Sohan was working on nuclear degradation. It's rather unfortunate that those who championed this term eventually did not give him the credit for showing the attenuated form of apoptosis in the lens fiber cells for the first time. Complete degradation of nuclear material in the lens fiber cells, as you know, is a critical step in the lens becoming transparent. His work with the lens led into another of his interests, which he pursued till the very end: molecular phylogenetics. To begin with, he used lenses from animals belonging to different taxa and characterized the lens crystallines in detail. This initial work led to his more recent work, in which he extensively used advanced computational methods to build phylogenetic trees based on protein structures. He was of the firm opinion that phylogenetic trees would be useful if and only if they are built at least in 3 dimensions. He used to say at least. Another area to which Sohan contributed right from his doctoral days was cell population growth during early morphogenesis. It used to be a general practice to count the total number of cells at various stages of embryonic growth and correlate it with morphogenesis. Sohan was one of the first few to analyze differential growth potentials of discrete cell populations in a chick embryo. He and his students, especially Mahendra Sonawne, were successful in isolating almost completely homogeneous germ layers from the early chick embryo. This allowed a better correlation between cell population growth and pattern formation. Sohan's work not only helped explain aspects of cellular basis of morphogenesis and pattern formation in the early embryo, but also helped explain teratogenic effects of several chemicals. Coming back to the days I spent in his lab, I remember that he used to take us out to eat and also drink after a hard day's work, but would never allow us students and postdocs to pay. Every big and small success and achievement was celebrated with a party. And as we began to enjoy and relax the party, some other plan took shape in his head. Before the party ended, he would excitedly tell us what he was thinking of doing next. That often turned out to be a prelude to the next party. He often brought refreshments for all of us working in the lab. He was quite fond of sugarcane juice, which he referred to as the champagne of Maharashtra. He was also fond of playing pranks on students. Once he injected a fair quantity of rum in a watermelon before it was cooled and cut. Teetotalers in the lab found the watermelon particularly tasty that day. Over the past 4 decades, I have participated in many scientific meetings where Sohan was present. With Sohan around, there was never a dull moment. Without him, scientific meetings were like Japanese cuisine without wasabi. With him gone, things will never be the same again. Thank you.
Thank you, Surin, for such a crisp and amusing, as well as at the same time, insightful review of also scientific contributions. And I think many of us agree over here. Please, Surin. Yeah.
The crispness comes from following Sohan's footsteps.
I think there will be more, and I will talk to you later. But I think in the interest of time, I'm just going to simply skip ahead and invite Kannan Krishnamurthy to please speak on behalf of colleagues, associates, and those who didn't speak earlier at the department. Also, in the meantime, in parallel, I'm following the WhatsApp group. So if anyone still has issues with the login, please message, try the direct link. We'll try to solve those things. Yeah, sorry, please, Kannan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chaitanya and Mahinder, whom I haven't met so far. But it's a pleasure knowing you the way you organize. I've already uploaded what I wanted to say, but I just want to pick up a few points due to paucity of time. You know, when Sohan picked me up, you know, I was working with a man who was called PMB, or what is called priest of modern biology. That's what he liked others to know. And here I suddenly meet another person who is a practitioner of modern biology. So one is a priest, then moving over to practitioner was a interesting thing. And I must tell you, you know, he was like an elder brother to me. And being in CCMB, I had all the comforts. And as Anupam rightly said, you know, leaving all the comforts of excellent lab we had, which I had the opportunity to create, meeting Sohan, I said, look, life is only one. I can do that any day, but let me try this out. So when Sohan invited me, it was a great experience. Then he said, why don't you come over? You know, Sohan, he knew it's not easy to catch people like me. So he said, can you come and conduct practicals for my first batch of biotech in '85? And you won't believe, I said, okay, let me teach them some very simple how to do milk protein fractionation characterization, because protein chemistry was not the strength of the department at that time. So I spent 3 days. The children brought packets of milk and you know how to process it, how to do gel electrolysis. Then I taught them how to do N-terminal determination, tryptic digestion, how are the new N growth. Children were absolutely excited. Of course, I remember Eddie telling me, the way you are sweating, sir, looks like you'll have a heart attack right now. So that was the kind of enthusiasm which Sohan created. You know, I could see that in that man, and I said, I can't let him down. I have to also stand up and, you know, fulfill the man's dream. So I think that is the greatness of Sohan Modak, that he, he could attract us. I mean, and mind you, he knew very well what were his strengths, what are his weaknesses, and he knew what is required to set up a biotechnology department, and he knew proteins are very important. So I must thank Sohan for giving me that opportunity. I must also say I was very keen to get into developmental biology, but then I had no background in developmental biology. So I had my student called Keku, and I will discuss with him what to do. And as usual, Keku was very close to Sohan. So Sohan, so he'll tell, this is what Kannan is telling. Hey, he's talking rubbish. That's not possible, So that is a typical way. And I said, how dare he say that, So I said, okay, I will prove it to him. So I always felt that only thing I wish, he was too busy. I mean, when I look back, I wish somebody had helped me with the chick embryo. We did some very interesting experiments, but we couldn't interpret, and I wish I had some time. But that was one time when Sohan was more hung about molecular biology than developmental biology, which I still cannot understand. I think that was his strength, I felt. I may be wrong. Molecular biology came later. So that is something I missed. But later I did some brilliant piece of work which made me whatever I am. But I must say, I always felt, I wish my elder brother had given me a little bit of hand at that time when I was working on ubiquitin research. So that is some grievance I personally have, but I must say, when I, decided to go to industry, because I said talking biotechnology is one thing, practicing also you should have. So I joined the industry to learn how to commercialize a product. I remember I went to the Department of Biotechnology to meet S. Ramachandran, who started this whole program. And apparently Sohan went to him, look, I'm really missing Kannan out there. And I said, so sweet of him, that after I leaving the department, he still said, no, we really lost somebody. And I said, I wish I can. So the next I decided I must popularize his biotechnology. Because Sohan had a model, and Sohan created a, I call as the niche. All of you should read what I put up there, what I defined as a niche, because you as biologists can appreciate it better. So he got some of us from some of the best places, and that's how the whole department started. But what I want to say is, I also realized that Sohan had a lot of ideas which he wanted students to learn, but I must say that I felt biotechnology should be a part of the faculty of engineering. Then what happened, the typical engineer 4-year program after schooling exposes you math, physics, bioinformatics, computer science, everything, so that they are ready to do it. So I established biotechnology in Delhi, BTech program for the first time. I created in some private universities like Amity, JP Institute. Even when I was Vice Chancellor, I created Nagaland University, Punjab University. So Sohan's whole model of biotechnology I could spread, and I feel very happy, and I feel very happy to see that what triggered me to be associated Sohan, at least I could popularize. People may not realize it is SPM model, but I always call it SPM model for basic biology and applied biology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kannan. And I think some of these ideas have come percolated to me at least, and I'm relatively a lot younger, much later. But again, in the interest of time, I have a little puzzle here. I have Ram Datar, Smita Vaidya, and Kalpana, all three listed. So any one of you who is here, could I please request you to speak? Yeah.
Thanks, Chaitanya. This is Ram Datar. I have Kalpana and Smita also here. Kalpana and Smita, can you please raise your hands to identify yourselves so that people get to see you?
Hi, everybody. Yeah. Hi, I'm Kalpana.
Kalpana Joshi and Smita Vaidya.
Hello, everyone. I'm Smita.
So Kalpana, Smita, and myself, we, as far as Dr. Modak is concerned, we predate almost 99% of all of you. We met him in 1979. When he arrived at University of Pune, we were the first batch of molecular biology. 3 of us joined many others. What I'm going to talk about in the next assigned 5 minutes, and I'll try to keep it as crisp as I expected to, is to talk about how we saw Dr. Modak initially when he arrived, and when we arrived, what challenges we saw him facing, what challenges we faced as students of his, and what we think about himself. So as we saw him in 79, we saw a 39-year-old very handsome man who had very piercing eyes, very mischievous eyes, who had shoulder-length hair. I don't know how many of you have seen him in that length of hair. He had his hair parted in the middle, which stayed that way for the rest of his life. His length of hair probably decreased a lot over the years, but he used to wear torn holed jeans, and he had a pocket watch, an ornate pocket watch which used to be hung from his loop of his jeans with a golden chain. He used to come to class and chain smoke. 1979, he used to chain smoke in the class. His brand was Dunhill cigarettes, 3 packs a day. That's 60 cigarettes. He was very friendly with students and colleagues, but he was very short-tempered, as most of you have seen for the rest of your lives with him later on. He used to whistle a very long forgotten Marathi tune, which was his terror tune, as we called it. He would prowl around the department premises whistling that tune, and you would know you'd be in for trouble if he's whistling your way. That was what we saw. This is just very briefly. We saw a lot more of him. Some of it is covered by Anupam and Suren, and many others will be covering further. Let's look at the challenges that he faced when he came to the department. I'm going to try and divide this into 4 different categories. Let's look at the atmosphere. He proposed changes in the curriculum for the existing zoology lectures and introduced novel concepts for lectures in molecular biology and developmental biology. All of these were resisted by the existing faculty, but he bulldozed them anyway, being Modak himself. And he just went ahead with what he wanted. Sometimes he used harsh words, but mostly he used persuasive, very intelligent conversations with these people, and finally turned them around. Over the 2 years, while some of them were unhappy, and some even turned into his enemies, most of the faculty were turned into admirers of Dr. Modak, and we finally had the courses that we deserve to have. Facilities and funds. While the university grants to the Department of Zoology were very limited at that time, Dr. Modak tapped aggressively into every governmental, industrial, and philanthropic funding source that was possible to get the academic streams in molecular biology and the DB equipped with the latest, most expensive preparative and analytical equipment. As far as environment in the department was considered, Dr. Modak took us students for visits to centers of academic excellence. It used to be NCL, BARC, IIT, and to Virus Research Center, which later on was named as NIV, National Institute of Virology. He used to take us to and arrange several conferences and workshops, and invited a number of faculty from national and international institutions to talk to us. They were the guest lecturers of repute. This significantly elevated the standing of the Department of Zoology as I look back at it. And this then made the department as a very desired destination for students to come to. Challenges that we faced as students when we were his students, we were primarily hated by a lot of faculty because we were called Modak's Pilawar, and that's a Marathi word, breed of Modak. So we were essentially hated initially. Later on, he made sure that everybody accepted us. When we arrived, the students arrived at this very drab department of zoology back then, for molecular biology and developmental biology. We were unsure of our futures. We were, faced with a very hippie-looking professor who was himself trying to withstand often hostile colleagues and non-teaching staff, and a course syllabus that was so foreign that we did not know if we would have the resources to even graduate. But within months, we were encouraged to dream about challenging the careers that we might have. We were learning to experiment the very hard way. We did not just learn the didactic coursework, but were given access to the latest literature and journals, and made to study, as Anupam pointed out, various research journals, and this included nucleic acid research and developmental biology and very tough articles. And he would ask us to ask questions. Millions of questions were raised and answered, and he would challenge us at every line. And we were forced by him to learn crazy things. And I'm saying crazy as it might not sound now, but that time it was pretty crazy. Glass blowing, Fortran, COBOL programming, scientific English writing. I don't know how many of you have done this afterwards, but this was very interesting that we were able to do that. We were also taught to undertake courses in photography. That was extremely helpful going forward into future careers for all of us. This was, I think, a very turning moment for all of us. We were a batch of very hungry and acquiring students who were very willing to be participating in any activity that he would ask us to. He would expect us to unbox, upload, unload every new equipment that came into, train into it, learn from the instruction manuals, install the equipment, and really start from the scratch. Most importantly, he taught his students to be fearless and inquisitive. We saw him, his human side, and Kalpana is probably going to agree to this. He used to scare female students by hiding into the glass cabinets that housed the skeletons of animals next to the department entrances. And he would stand there in the dark and just come out in the late evenings to scare them. This was just one of his things. He used to call us by weird names. Kalpana for him was idea. That's what he would call her. Incidentally, Smita, who's here in the audience now, was the first person to call him boss, and that name stuck with him. He loved it. Many of us have stayed with him, in touch with him. He would stay with us for all day practically, 9:30, whatever time it takes to finish the experiment. Walk out with us to the Aniket canteen, I believe it was that time. I don't know if it's still the same name. He would feed us, he would torture us for the next day, and he would be back again the next morning. So they would always start at 7:38 and go on till whatever time he wants us to end it at. So that was the man that we saw. We have stayed in touch with him for a long time, almost 43 years now. And as I look back with the intervening 43 years, all of us realized that most of us would not have been where we are now if Dr. Modak had not been in part of our life. So thank you, Dr. Modak, for what you have been.
Thank you, Ram. This was really, really nice. And I think despite us, many of us being separated by so many years from our engagements, some things never changed till the very end from what I understood. And once more, I'm going to do my duty and move to Kumaran Ramanathan. Kumaran, if you are here and hear us. I think perhaps.
No, I'm here.
Perfect.
Yeah, give me a minute.
No problem.
Let me get my notes.
Yes.
Sorry. Sorry, it's 6 a.m. here in the US.
So we, in fact, thank you for pointing this out. I apologize to those who
No, don't,
either
please.
early morning or too
Pleasure.
late in the night. But the fact that our planet is strong kind of makes this impossible.
It's fine. It's fine. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to.
And hopefully in person we will meet one day. Maybe not all at one place. One does not know. Please go for it.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Thanks, Chaitanya and Mahendra. Sorry, I haven't met you before, but thanks for organizing this and giving me an opportunity to talk about Professor Sohan Modak. And I want to also thank all the other professors who are in this meeting. And I'm really honored to be here with Professor Kannan, Professor Godbole, Professor Kaskadbi, and also Sharmila, Professor Sharmila. I don't know if she's a professor, but I know her since the day we first came to Pune and met with her as Professor Modak's wife. So, and I watched Rasika when she was 2 years old. She used to watch us playing volleyball. So let me start my story with how much I admire Dr. Modak and all the other faculty members, but how Modak specifically influenced me in my life as well as my career. So let me start with the day just before the interview for biotechnology. I finished my bachelor's and came to join the biotech program at Pune, but we had to go through 3 rounds. One was the lab practical test, then there was an interview, and then there was a written test. So there were 3 things that need to happen to kind of get to the final stages of screening. And the day we arrived there, somebody had described to me that you'll find a guy who has a jacket and who has spectacles that are hanging from his nose, and just look for that guy and he'll be able to help you. So two of us came to the department and it was completely empty. Halls were dark. And I said, what kind of department is this? There's nobody here. And we are going to spend the next 2 years here. And then I hear there was footsteps coming from the other end of the corridor. And as soon as I heard those footsteps, I realized, oh, this may be Professor Modak, because that's how it was described to me. So as soon as he came, he looked at us and said, who are you? And I said, hey, we are here, we are prospective biotech students, and we were here just wondering what our ranks are in the national test. And he said, really, you want to know your ranks? Okay, I'll try to get it for you. And then he started shouting at the top of his voice. And immediately, I don't know where these people were, but immediately there were like 10 people scrambling in the corridor. And he was speaking in Marathi. He said, hey, Tena marks paije, kute aaye tumi, and this and that. And immediately they got the list out. He told us our ranks. So that very first impression of Dr. Modak, where, you know, he could go to any length. He could have easily told us, hey, you are here for the interview. Let the interview go on and come back tomorrow. But no, he went that extra step to make sure we got whatever we needed. And then he said, oh, you are here for the interview. Do you know how to play volleyball? I said, yes. So he said, just go upstairs, open that door, you'll find the nets, bring it down. So even within those 10-15 minutes, we had bonded in such a way where he could just tell me that do this, and I was happy to do it. And we got the volleyball down, and all of us started playing, and all the seniors like Keku, Vivek, and Eddie, and several of them were there in the department working in various labs. All of them joined and we played volleyball, and they told me immediately, they said, hey, if you know how to play volleyball, you will get into biotech. And, and in fact, the four of us, the four boys, there were 5 boys in our batch. This is 87, 89 batch. And 4 of us were playing volleyball. All 4 of us got in. And the 5th one was Sanjeev Galande. He's in this talk, he's listening to us, but I'm not sure if he's joining us and he's going to speak. But anyway, all 4 of us got in, and all 4 of us had challenged Dr. Modak in some form or the other. In fact, one of my friends, who none of us had got into biotech yet, but he actually told Dr. Modak that, hey, if you don't know how to smash a ball, why do you play volleyball? And because so Dr. Modak had a tendency to smash the ball, and we had to go and bring the ball back. So it was a little irritating. But anyway, it was fun. And then let me come back to his lectures. His lectures always started with the central dogma of molecular biology. So I can never forget that he always started from DNA to RNA to protein. And that got embedded in my mind so well that even today, when I start my talks, it always starts with the central dogma of molecular biology, and there we go from there. So it was a very first lesson on whenever you start, wherever you start, whoever is your audience, please start from the very foundation of what you're going to talk about. Then comes the interview. So during my biotech interview, we had a panel of several professors. Dr. Kannan, Professor Kannan was there, Modak, Dr. Godbole, Sitaramam, Professor Sitaramam, and Professor Dilip Devbakar. So all of them were there. And the first thing Dr. Modak did was take a piece of paper and draw 2 axes. And he said, show me, you're a microbiologist, show me how bacteria grows. So I looked at the paper, there was nothing on the axis. I threw the paper back at him. I said, I don't see anything on the axis. What do you want me to draw? Oh, he said, oh, that's good. So then he put something on the axis, time versus counts. Then he said, okay, now draw how the bacteria grows. So I drew the sigmoidal curve. And after I drew the curve, he shows the paper to everybody, every faculty member. And he says, look, this is how the bacteria grows. And he shows the paper and everybody starts laughing. And this was a clear thing that he wanted to honor the candidate and play with the candidate and try to challenge the candidate, check the confidence. And it was a brilliant move. But anyway, I stuck to my gun. So it was a good thing that happened. And at the end of the interview, he called all his students. He said, ask him any questions you want. This guy answers everything. So very interesting experience. And he always had his lectures on the weekends. And it was unbelievable. When I saw him come into the department, he was extremely focused. I felt that he hadn't slept the whole night because his eyes were bloodshot. And I knew he had a lot of administrative work, and all the professors were involved in working with the Department of Biotechnology, planning their lectures, planning our labs. So it was a lot of hard work. And I knew that he had very little time during the week to conduct the lecture to his satisfaction. So he called us over the weekend, and we would be in the lecture hall from like morning 8 to evening 4, studying developmental biology. And he never referred to a book. He always had this habit of just using the overhead projector to draw actually what he wants to speak. And he literally, and then I felt that, okay, maybe he was preparing during the night and he wants to download everything to us in a very coherent way so we can understand this as students. And he's the one who gave me the title of commander, because my name is Kumaran. And when you say that in Tamil, sometimes it comes out, it sounds on the phone like commander. So one of my relatives had called his phone in his office, and I was working in the lab down the corridor. So he comes out of his room and shouts at the top of his voice, Commander, Commander, where is Commander? And then as soon as I got out, he said, hey, there's a phone for you. I said, hey, I'm not Commander. But anyway, so that was his humorous side. And I also felt that he had a childlike curiosity and a very impish smile, because we had a visitor from UK. Her name was Ruth, or he is Ruth Bellairs. And he had invited her to give a talk, and we were, he was sitting in the car with her. And then we, as students, we were getting out of the department for something. He looked at us, looked with whom am I sitting in this car? And it was a biotech van. And he was projecting that, look, this is what you get to become when you become successful like me. So anyway, and last but not the least, I will talk about the cricket match. It was not very common for faculty to come and be part of a cricket match, but we were in the finals and we were playing the MBA team, MBA department. So, and I remember distinctly that Professor Modak and Dr. Devbakar, they were all there to cheer us up. And then he sat on his scooter. He had a scooter at that time. He sat on his scooter and then he looked at me and then he says, you know, in Marathi, and he made some hand language that I can't show here. He said, you know, beat the crap out of them. And we were the opener batsmen, both me and Shankar. So we played it well and we won. And immediately he took us all to the cafeteria and gave us a big party. We all had a big meal. And so that showed that he was very kind at heart, and he always liked to have a good time, and he always wanted to celebrate those small moments, which were very small for the rest of the world, but very big for us. So he wanted to make us feel valued, and he was both a friend, very, you know, like when we are together, you couldn't say that he's professor and I'm a student. But when he was a professor, he was a professor. He would teach us what is important, and he would push the boundaries and challenge us in every respect, like in terms of your personality. I clearly remember that I have a tendency to not speak up loudly. And he told me once, you know, why do you not open your mouth when you talk? You need to talk loudly. Tomorrow you'll be sitting in a board meeting or in a meeting of directors and so on. You got to speak up and speak loudly. Don't stop yourself. And that stuck with me. And since that day, you know, it has been like I've been constantly monitoring myself. I know where to project. I know what is critical and what type of meeting. So these are little advice that he would give me on and off, which was really helpful. So I really miss him, and I wish I had kept in touch with him. I've been following him over the years. He went to Delhi, he went to different places, he has been involved with big programs, but I didn't get a chance to interact with him on a daily basis. But nevertheless, I would say he resides in all our hearts, and I'll never forget all his teachings and also all his advice. And I wish Sharmila and the children the very best. And you had a great father, and he's with us all the time. So that's it for me. Thank you so much, Chaitanya. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kumaran. And as Mahindra said, I think please don't thank us. This is all of us coming together, and in a way, it's something that we all want to do. Without further ado, Dr. Jyoti Kode, if she's around, we would love to have you.
So Chaitanya, Eddie is going to speak instead of.
Eddie is going to speak because he generally represents our batch. So.
Hi everyone. Great.
Eddie, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, Eddie. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hi everyone. Greetings to all the friends of Dr. Modak. My name is Eddie Saeed. I'm an alumni from the first batch of biotechs, 1985 to 87. I work at the International AIDS Vaccine Initiative based in New York. We focus on developing HIV and COVID vaccines. We have a very vibrant WhatsApp group representing batches from the biotechs 87, 88, and also the zootechs, as we call them, ranging from batches of 1984 to 88. On behalf of this group, I'd like to present a tribute to Professor Sohan Modak. Professor Sohan Modak was a multifaceted person, as many of you have said. One can define him as a teacher, a mentor, a guide, a coach, a professor, an advisor, an educator, a visionary leader who later focused at making a fundamental change to the way biological sciences was being taught at the master's level in India. He remained steadfast, maneuvered through obstacles, and was able to launch the first ever master's course in biotechnology at the zoology department in 1985. This also led to the revamping of the syllabus for the zoology students to align with the biotechs. Planning for success, he engaged the best-in-class teachers, professors, and esteemed scientists from the national institutes and industries of India, like the Dr. Devbakers, Dr. Kannan, Dr. Kolaskar, Dr. Sitaraman. His team also included the biochemistry wizards, Dr. Diwan and Dr. Reddy, the Drosophila geneticist, Dr. Godbole, the development biologist, Dr. Khan and Dr. Kadare, and of course, the father of tissue culture in India, Dr. Wagh, as we fondly called him. There's so many other illustrious names who contributed to the great cause. We had eminent visiting professors from NIV, Hindustan Antibiotics, and NCL too. Many of them are in the audience today, and some not with us. Let's take a moment to sincerely thank each one of them for their immense contributions. Without them, a renaissance in the department was not possible. I shall remain eternally grateful to the department for establishing two important foundations in my life: the solid foundation for a career and the even stronger foundation, my wife Simanthini, whom I met at the great department. We fondly discussed the wonderful days spent there, our teachers and our colleagues. The biotech entrance stumped us all. It was a test of our aptitude in biology, but also in chemistry, microbiology, physics, botany, statistics, and even mathematics. I think I also saw a few questions in history and geography, and I wondered why. The Practical 2 exam was a unique exam that tested the candidates' ability on laboratory smartness. They saved the best for the last, and we were subject to an inquisition by a panel of at least 10 scientific stalwarts in a face-to-face interview. Oh boy, that was tough. Stipends and summer internships for a master's program was not common in those days, but Dr. Modak strived to make that possible. He was tough and had a no-nonsense attitude to achieve his vision. He was fondly called the boss, who heralded his arrival to the department on his characteristic black scooter. Black was probably his favorite color, as we always seem to remember him in a black denim pants, a gray short sleeve shirt, and of course, that half sleeve leather jacket. I'm intrigued how the black became pink, as most of his recent pictures depict him. The hotshot biotech students arrived in the scene at the zoology department in 1985. 1 week into the department, a notice announcing a zoology association seminar appeared. Instead of getting ourselves into the museum, the entire gang landed up watching a matinee show at the Rahul Theatre. We were greeted with a bombardment of missiles from a fuming boss demanding an explanation for our action. Not sure who sheepishly blurted out that it was a zoology association seminar and not the biotechs. A dressing down was on the cards, and it took a few days to extinguish those flames. A cigarette in one hand, a marker pen in the other, as he lectured us in the museum using transparencies. Despite the high intensity, it was hilarious to see the inadvertent exchange in the hands, with the marker in the mouth and the cigarette on the transparency. Many in the audience wondered whether the histones rolled over the DNA or the DNA over the histones. That man was possessed by that obsession. His course in scientific writing and analysis was a league beyond those times that developed a unique skill set and that continues to remain in each one of our minds. Countless hours were spent for the seminar that he began. I recall an incident when a student was presenting a scientific paper on a chimeric mice. The boy had spent a lot of time preparing for it. Dr. Modak stopped him at the initial outset and asked him a question. What is a chimera? The boy confidently answered, a device to take pictures. Out he went. There was a silence of horror and he received marching orders. It was the shortest seminar I ever attended in my life. He socialized with each one of us by playing volleyball. He knew he was charismatic and hero worshipped by his students. Students of the department are spread all over the globe and hold key senior leadership roles in academia and biotech. They continue to strive hard and achieve excellence in whatever work they do. Boss and all our teachers, your hard work is paying rich dividends through thousands of your alumni. You have influenced our lives in so many ways. Thank you very much for your guidance and devotion. Dr. Modak, you shall eternally remain in our hearts. You will be missed. Our deepest condolences to Sharmila and the kids. Thanks to the team who conceptualized this great tribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eddie. As always, fantastic. And without further ado, I'm just going to ask Dr. Ramesh Bonde if he can continue in the same vein as you mentioned about cell culture, because I think this connection is really strong between what SPM stood for and what Ramesh Bonde did. So please, Dr. Ramesh, are you around?
He doesn't seem to be there unless he has used some other alias to join.
I don't think he is there. I think he's busy today.
We can move to the next speaker.
Fantastic. Bertha Elias, Dr. Bertha Elias, are you around? Yes, you are. Okay. Perfect. Yes, Bertha,
Hello.
you're on. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you,
Hey,
Eddie.
Greetings, everyone, on this actually auspicious day of Gudi Padwa, and wish you all a happy day as we celebrate the life of Dr. Modak. I am Bertha Elias, as many of you know, and I'm representing the 1983 to 85 batch of zoology. At that time, we were about 30 of us who came from different parts of Maharashtra. very rural parts as well as the city, some from different states and also from different countries. Yes, we had 2 from Kenya. Considering this, we were a pretty heterogeneous group of students with varying skills in communication. Dr. Modak realized this, and with his ingenious skills, he partnered us in different groups for practicals and other activities. And by the end of the first semester, he made us into one homogeneous class. And that was one of his very great characters, where he could bring people from different communities or different language speaking or different backgrounds and make them all work together, which I thought was a very unique skill that he had. For the past few days and in the following lectures, we are going to hear a lot about Sir's qualities and peculiarities, but I would like to highlight one of his unique characters that we saw in full display, and that was his fearlessness in the face of adversity. Many of you will remember the 31st of October, 1984, the day when some of us clearly remember the assassination of our Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi. We at that time had just started our practical exams and were in the middle of doing our dissections, and we could hear some rumblings in the corridor that something was happening. Remember, this was the day before cell phones and internet, so it was all through whispering and chattering around the corridor. After a couple hours, we realized that there was something happening, but Dr. Modak, in his unique style, refused to stop the practical exams, though all other departments had shut down and sent their students home. At the end of the exams, we came out and we realized there was no way for us to get home because there was rioting in the city. But he took it upon himself personally to make sure that each and every one of us reached home safe. The driver actually of the biotech van that those days refused to drive, and he personally took the wheel and dropped most of us home. So that shows us that he cared deeply and took his responsibilities towards the students very, very seriously. Besides this, there's another point that I would like to bring out, and that is his childlike qualities. As Eddie also mentioned, that he would very often take classes on Sundays, and this was a very frequent occurrence during our times when he would take our molecular biology classes on Sundays, especially when he had to travel to Sweden on his other assignments. And after a couple Sundays, we started to grumble and say, you know what, sir, we get to watch Star Trek only once on Sunday, and that is also aired for 1 hour on our old black and white Doordarshan television. And he said, y'all are interested in that? Here, take the keys to my apartment and go and watch Star Trek for that 1 hour and then come back, and then we continue with the class. So he had that other side to him that, you know, most of us didn't always pick up on, because we always thought he was this taskmaster and we had to all be afraid of him. But if you actually, you know, went to him with our requests, he always kind of took that into heart and made it possible for us to do what was reasonable. So besides being this great teacher and mentor and administrator and everything else rolled into one, he had also he was also great at tossing a salad. So our batch was one of the first few batches to organize a farewell party for our seniors. That included Sharmila and Anupap and many others who are on this meeting. And Dr. Modak personally helped us to decide the menu. And then at the end of it all, he came to toss the salad, and which was really, really, I mean, an eye-opener for us. We're like, oh my goodness, our boss is coming to toss the salad. So we saw the cook side of him as well. Besides all this, our batch was also a unique, if I may say so, Sharmila, that we were witness to the day when Dr. Modak and you got married, because we were again doing our embryology practicals, and suddenly there was all this nervous whispering going around, and then somebody said, hey, you know, Dr. Modak just got married. And we're like, who's this? And, you know, it was all this nervous activity going on and this excitement around, and needless to say, all our embryos went down the drain that day. Experiments were aborted, and we were just having, you know, the shocked emotions going around, but we were so happy that everything, you know, to this day, we see that they have been together and having a great life and had a great family. On a personal note, I would also like to thank Professor Modak for all the things that he had done for our batch. For example, our batch students, with all the resources, limited resources that we had back in the day, but with his effort and his mentoring, most of us have reached levels in our life that without him and the rest of the teachers who are present on this panel and gone before us have helped us to achieve. Most of our batch members, including the present head of the department, Sangeeta, went on to teach, and this shows that, you know, his mentoring really helped us go forward in life. There are many who are teaching or have retired from teaching in professional colleges and universities, both in India and abroad. Some of them, like Naila from our group, went on to work with a non-profit government agency to implement unconventional education systems in India. Manjushri, another student from our batch, took on the environment and is responsible for one of the institutes that is certified by the government of India for certifying organic produce, and which actually is a brainchild of Professor M.R. Bide and Dr. Modak. Kavita and some other students from our batch are at eminent positions in scientific institutes. And so you can see that even in 1983, he was able to produce students that have gone ahead so far in life. And his way of keeping us all together has proved even 38 years since we are still connected and we are still together, and we still communicate with each other. And on a personal note, I have to thank Professor Modak and the rest of the teachers for two things that happened. One is that I benefited from him revamping the syllabus in zoology and helping me to be where I am. And not many of us can say that there's another person in the family that benefited, my sister Cynthia, who happens to be also batchmate of Eddie, who was the first year biotech, wouldn't be where she is today as the director of manufacturing vaccines in the government of Canada's Vaccine Research Center in Montreal today. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the teachers. And we hope that this momentum carries on and we will be able to institute something more lasting in honor of Professor Modak. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bertha. These were wonderful words. May I now call on Narendra Naidu, if he's around.
Yes. Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Yes, Narendra, please go ahead. We hear you. Please
Okay,
start your
thank you.
video. Please start your video if you can.
Hello. I was in the 1982 to 1984 batch as a PG student with Dr. Modak, and I was very privileged that I got selected for the developmental biology after all that rigorous aptitude test. So I could be with him under his tutelage for 2 years. And of course, we had a continued relationship later also. I was one of those fortunate and privileged ones who could attend the wedding of Sharmila and Sohan Modak. And that's a big story. But coming back to he as a teacher for me and a mentor in the college, in the department, we had heard a lot about him. And suddenly one day when he entered the department, it was something like we learned in school days that he came, he saw, he conquered. That charismatic figure that he had and the brilliance that he had on his face, it was so charming for all of us. And when we were in the class, he was really a taskmaster. In the laboratory, when he had this chick embryology culture practicals, he demonstrated to us it is just not the fingers and the hand that should be agile and controlled, but it's the breath that matters when you do chick embryology practicals. That is what he taught. And the people have been mentioning here right now, Anupam talk, Sadhana Samant also is writing in the chat box, you are all batchmates. Today, Savita Datar, the principal of SP College, she is our batchmate. We had a friend Satish Kamble, who was in ZSI as a scientist. We have Satish Ghatpande, who was he's a researcher in US. He did PhD with Dr. Modak, and his wife also worked in the university. So we all gathered here as a clan. Like we had Abu Ben Adam clan, this is Dr. SPM clan. And just I will mention 2 incidents because there are so many adjectives, so much from the heart emotions coming out of all people. Maybe it will be a repetition. I'll just mention 1 or 2 incidents that happened and which have been very deep in my mind. One is which Anupam had mentioned briefly about the SOP of a centrifuge. It went on for 6 hours and I was so happy that I had reached almost the end and we were supposed to keep some demi centrifuge tubes into the centrifuge. And I thought it's done. Now I have to just close the lid and say we are going on. Suddenly he told me to stop. And I was surprised, the whole batch was surprised. And he said, my dear friend, can you repeat what you did? I went on and did it again. And he had noticed that I had kept my thumb on the lid, on the cover, on the lid, on the rim of the centrifuge tube. What about the RNS from your skin, he said. So we went again, we had to start all over again from putting on the main switch and then continue. In the second round, I was almost towards the end and I just said, adjust the knob. He said, no, not adjust the knob, set the knob. So here was a person who introduced us to so many courses which our university did never have. I heard now even Ram Datar and other people speaking about it. We were also a sort of a guinea pig batch where we had courses but no teachers. But SPM got members from all over the country, from reputed institutes, and they came and taught us all the names Anupam has already mentioned. And therefore, this helped us to be a good teacher today. There is not a single batch that I have taught where I have not mentioned about SPM in my class, whether it is molecular biology, whether it is developmental biology or cell biology. And another incident from my batch, now everybody has been mentioning about his extra classes on Sundays. It was supposed to be a Dasara next day, one of the great Hindu festivals. We were looking forward as a holiday, and suddenly he comes and announces that tomorrow we are meeting at 8:30. The whole batch was annoyed. We also tried to protest, but it was in vain with him. So next day morning, all unwillingly came there and sat in the class in the museum hall. And then he took us into the world of DNA, histones, and chromatin with just electric wire lying. He picked it up, rolled it around his fist, and then there came nucleosome, there came the entire chromatin structure. When he abruptly stopped, we realized that we were listening to him for the last 3 hours. That was the charisma, and that was the passion that he taught. And he had no props, no PowerPoint presentations as we have today. As everybody mentioned about that OHP, 2 markers and that wire, and that DNA has got drilled into our head forever. After the class, we met him and we asked him, we apologized because on the earlier day when we protested, he asked us in Marathi, "Kai karnar tumi ghari?" So we said, no, sir, it's a Saraswati Pujan. In Maharashtra, we also have Saraswati Pujan and we have to be home. And then after this lecture, when we apologized, he asked us, what we did today, was it not Saraswati Puja? Were we not at the altar of knowledge today? So that is one incident I can never forget in my life. That how one can be passionate about teaching to the heart, deeply inside. He was a core researcher. a very wonderful teacher. And as all of you are mentioning so many adjectives, we also experienced that. I think we learned a lot from him. That aptitude test was really rigorous. We were all almost nervous, all sweating. Some of the girls were also in tears. And we went through all that rigorous written exam, then the practical exam, and a very, very rigorous interview also. And through all that, when we made it, it was a great joy. So Dr. Modak will remain with us forever. There could be many more incidents that I could share, but with the paucity of time, I just thank all the organizers and all of you here who have patiently listened to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narendra Naidu. The train must somehow go on. So I'm going to be a little rude here and invite my actually colleague, Dr. Sanjeev Galande, and as it turns out, senior from many, many years. Sanjeev, are you there by any chance?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, loud and clear. I'm just putting the spotlight on you. There you go. Yeah, super. Thanks.
So many of us have spoken, and I see a lot of things coming out of everybody's experiences. I'll try not to repeat all the stories again. But as Chaitanya mentioned in his talk, that students were actually scared of Professor Modak, reminded me of one episode. And I must narrate this episode because I'm sure many other batches might not have gone through this. So in one of the classes, Professor Modak actually got upset about something. And of course, nobody can ask him who will bell the cat. So something went wrong. And then he said in a very, very upsetting manner, nobody understood exactly what it meant. But in the next 2 classes that he took after that, in the same week, he did not utter a word in the classroom. What he actually did was, he used to come to the class, pick up the chalk, and write down every word that he would normally utter on the board. He would start from the left side, write down everything in one column, second column, third column on the right hand side. At the end of it, maybe 30-40 minutes into the class, he wiped the whole board again, started again from the left corner, and wrote again the whole class he taught by not speaking a word. He actually just wrote the whole lecture out on the board. And of course, initially it took us some time to understand what's going on. And of course, finally, when we realized he's going to wipe out everything, there was a hurry, and everybody wanted to write down what he has written. And I remember that was a really interesting episode. It happened for 2 consecutive lectures. But not a single soul in the class of about 20 to 25 students could dare to ask him exactly what's going on. Okay, so even to date, and after that I asked him only once, he just laughed at me and he just smiled and said, no, just leave it. Nobody actually knows the answer. So if today anybody can give me an answer to this particular phenomenon, I would be very happy. So this is one story of how he just held the class and nobody could dare to actually ask him what's going on. But mind you, the quality of teaching, even with this particular mode where he was writing everything, beautiful handwriting, straight lines. He had a very peculiar font that he would use, and he just wrote everything beautifully with some diagrams in between, all with the chalk on the board. I still have very vivid memory of this, and this is an answer that I could never get from him or anyone else. And I don't even think now anybody can even answer this for me. Dr. Modak had a very fine gift of organizing things extremely well because of his finer attention to detail. I can imagine he was a fantastic organizer for meetings. I was fortunate to attend many of the meetings that he had organized, including the GRC meetings. GRC meetings are for scientists, and he was a very active member of the GRC. And the first meeting that I attended that he had organized was in Leh, Ladakh. And it was a beautiful meeting. He would find the most idyllic location for the meetings. I remember one of the talks that we actually had on the plateau, which was overlooking the convergence of two rivers in the Leh region. And that was almost like a dream that we were living, watching people talk about their own science for 3 hours. The session was held at this particular location. And also the way different types of food items were served and the way different sessions were planned in different parts of the day at different locations, and how people were transported from one place to another place was actually like a lesson in how to organize conferences of this kind. There's one other conference that he had organized, which was held in 2011 in Aurangabad, and Chaitanya was invited for this particular conference, if he remembers. And this, yeah, oh, you have a very good teacher, okay. So at this particular meeting, there was a very interesting episode about giving talks, and he wanted both of us, Chetan and I, to volunteer because in that particular year, GRC was going to take a call on whether to allow slides, PowerPoint presentations or not. Otherwise, it was only a chalk and talk kind of a meeting always, and it still remains to be. And so I was giving a talk with slides, and somehow nobody liked it, and I was like hammered, lots of questions, and people were completely displeased about using of this particular new mode of presentations. And Professor Modak was sitting in the audience. He did not say a word, but I could see he was also very annoyed because he was sitting like this. And at the end of the session, I thought he's going to just come and completely beat the hell out of me. What the hell did he do? But you know, he was very supportive. He actually understood that whatever had happened, and he came and actually tried to calm me down. He says, "Don't worry, this change is not going to happen. We'll just leave it at that." And GRC went back to again using chalk and talk kind of a mode, which continues even as of today. So the ability to organize something like this and then finally accept that certain things you can't change. And I think that requires a very different kind of a mindset, which he had. He also taught one thing which is very close to me, and that is how to be fiercely critic. I'm sure all of you must have known how vocal he was in meetings and conferences, in talks, in classroom. And he did not care who's speaking, what is the topic, or what is the time of the day. He just held everybody accountable for each and every word that they speak. So you can't afford to make any mistakes. So if you say that, oh, I use the word without thinking, he'll say, why did you do that then? You are supposed to think and put thought behind every word that you actually use. And this fierceness, this kind of a critique of yourself is something that he also must have followed, because he actually could, you sit into any of his class or presentations, and you can see that he must have rehearsed all of this that he spoke today somewhere, maybe in his mind. And one could see that when he was coming to the classroom, sometimes I've seen him walking in the corridors, he would actually move several steps up and down, thinking about probably what to say in the classroom. He's rolling over the entire scene of various pictures that he's going to draw, what are the examples he's going to give, the way he's going to talk about this versus that topic, and all of that used to come out in a very coherent fashion in his classroom. It was a lesson for many of the students of how to deliver presentations, how to organize a class, because speaking something in 60 minutes, anybody can do, but how to deliver in a very organized fashion, the content that actually goes straight into your head and sticks there. There's hardly any dropout after that, you know. So this kind of very effective delivery in a classroom is something that I really aspire to learn from him, and I hope I have learned some of these things from him in the years that I was associated with him. He was also very difficult to please. He had very high standards of everything from data to presentations. In the practicals, if you have marks out of 10, it's very rare to get about 6 or 7 from him, okay? Because whatever you do, it's never perfect. He would say, oh, maybe this gel could have been run like this. Maybe the marker should have been straight, not so tilted. He would find something or the other to convince you that what you have done is not perfect. It may be okay, you may have the result, but it is not perfect. So he was really, really focused on to the details and to give the best output in terms of the quality and integrity of data. And that is something that he stuck to for all his life. And I think this is one of the hallmarks of being not just a great teacher, but also a great scientist that all of us have really imbibed from him. Many people have said that he was extremely outspoken and have actually said all kinds of things to people. Many times there was a backlash, and I'm sure it must have hurt him in various ways, but it never showed it to people. You know, he used to always smile at everybody, and no matter what the person talks behind him, but he always smiled at everyone, whatever they said. And of course, if it didn't make sense, he would argue. It must have been really hard for him, but he has always stood his ground. And this is again something that I tried to learn from him. He was a scientist with a spine. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. And I think we can, most of us probably just mirror this. And again, I'm not going to say more, but Ruta Sansgiri is the next, please. Yes. Rita.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes,
I was
sorry.
muted.
No problem. Sorry, I just.
So I'm Ruta Sansgiri. I am a student of Professor Modak. I belong to the class of 1990. So we were the batch that came to the department in 1988 and we left in 1990. Our batch is really close-knit. As Eddie said, we also have a WhatsApp group and we talk regularly, we argue with each other, we advise each other, we are a great resource for each other. And I think it's a testament to how strong this biotech zoology program was that we have managed to keep that camaraderie alive after almost 31 years. And Dr. Modak, or boss, as he was affectionately called, and I today learned who coined the term boss, which stuck with him over the years. He was at the center of it all. But before I say anything, I want to acknowledge one thing, which is that when I first heard that Dr. Modak had passed away, I felt sad. I felt a deep sense of loss, like an era had ended, like a beautiful chapter in my life was closed. But this event today has turned into such a joyous occasion. This reminiscing, exchanging stories, seeing so many familiar faces, seeing faces that I didn't know before, but hearing the same themes and the same experiences has really resonated with me. And so I want to thank the organizers, really grateful for that, all the speakers and Dr. Modak's family. Sharmila Modak and his kids, Rasia and Alap. In fact, seeing Rasia at the beginning of this talk as an adult transported me back to 1988 when we were, barely 20 years old ourselves. And she was a little kid who used to come to the department with her father on his scooter. And that image and that time has just come alive for me. We all knew, as Bertha said, we were from different parts of the country, some from small towns, big cities. Many of us were living away from home for the first time. It was my first time staying in a hostel. It was just an amazing, magical, wonderful time of life. And I think everybody all of the students have said that. We all knew we were joining a prestigious program. We had gone through the written tests, the aptitude, the practicals, the interviews, all of that. And we knew we were in a unique program in the country at the time. We were only the 4th batch of biotechs. But how truly unique and innovative it was, I think became apparent over the years. When I look back, it was a biology program. And we had classes in basic computer programming. We had statistics, We had scientific communication and seminars. This was a program way ahead of its time. And the whole atmosphere was electric. It was alive. It was vibrant. There were collaborations. There were visiting professors. There were other institutes that our department was involved with. You felt like you were doing real science. It was not about sitting in a classroom, listening to lectures and taking notes. It was about independent thinking, critical thinking, hands-on experiences, real life experiences. That was what the focus was on. And I think we benefited from it in immensely in many ways. We started as these barely 20-year-olds kids, and we left as adults when we got our MSc and we left the department. And like I said, at the center of it all was Professor Modak and the wonderful team, I would call the dream team, that he had assembled. There was Professor Sitaraman, Devbakar, the Kolaskar, number of people, Dr. Reddy and Diwan and Gorbole and Khan, and the memories are just overtaking me right now. It was truly a vibrant, magical time. And then I want to say about Professor Modak. He was a presence that was larger than life. He was everywhere. And I want to say that, we all know he was a terrific scientist, an amazing teacher, but he was a very stylish man too, like visually, you couldn't overlook him. He was there. He wore brightly colored clothes. He came in shocking pink shirts and bright green. And he was just very charismatic. He pushed us, that's true. He pushed people, he probed, he made people uncomfortable. But I think what was a key difference was that he encouraged us to push back. I think in our Indian culture, we respect our elders, which is a good thing. We respect teachers, we respect elders. But sometimes that respect becomes excessive and it becomes a way to give into authority. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned from Dr. Modak was question authority. Don't take things just because somebody tells you to take them. Speak up, be firm, even when somebody else, pushes on you, you learn, you give it back. In Marathi, we say, "Are la kare manaitsa," when someone says something to you, you stand your ground. He encouraged that. He liked it when we argued back with him. And I think that was a key learning, even beyond science. It was a life lesson that we all carried with ourselves. When we left the department, when we are now scattered all over the world. I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I'm calling from here. But that attitude, that looking at people in the eye and speaking your mind, I think that was a great gift that he gave us. And beyond that, he also taught us that life was about enjoying it. Life was more than just one aspect. He was a multifaceted personality, as somebody said. He was a cook. He encouraged us. I remember that cricket match that Kumaran talked about. He took all of us to Aniket. It was the whole cricket team, and it was all of us who were cheering. We were hoarse, screaming that day, and Professor Modak took us off and treated us. So that was a very, very fond memory. He was a poet. In the last few years, I had reconnected with him over LinkedIn and Facebook. He wrote beautiful, sensitive poetry in multiple languages, in Marathi, English, and someone said it was also in French, which I don't speak French, so I didn't see that. But here was a man who lived life large, lived life king size, and he deserved the moniker of boss. He was a boss man. And so when the news came, I talked to my colleagues and I was deeply honored to be representing my batch today. And I was like, what do we want to say about him? What are the memories? And people were sending their memories. And the one class that stood above everything else we learned was his Sunday morning scientific writing class. That was a class which went on, I think it was scheduled for 2 hours, but it often went up to 5 or 6 hours. And maybe we complained at the time, but we all enjoyed it. And now looking back, that's the class that stands out in everybody's mind. We were taught how to use transparencies and give seminars. Sometimes it was extempore. We were just given a topic and stand up and speak for 10 minutes. There were times when one particular instance where we played Chinese whispers, and we started with one sentence, we ended it with another, and that was a lesson in how to speak clearly, how to enunciate. I remember his word, do not pontificate, just come straight to the point. There were just a number of such experiences and anecdotes that come to mind. Today, we have all scattered. My batch is, we're all over. Some of us are in India, some are in US, Canada, Australia. We are all we're all accomplished in our fields. Some of my colleagues, some of my batchmates are professors at universities. Some are teachers. Some are actually not in scientific education, but in special ed. So education, but a different type of education. Some are entrepreneurs who have their own businesses in biotech. Some are doing fabulous, excellent work in private sector. I have wandered off a little bit. I'm actually a lawyer now, and I do patent law, focusing on biotech and pharmaceuticals. In fact, my last connection with Boss was over patent law and exchanging some messages on LinkedIn about what is patentable and what is not. So it's with a full heart that I sit here today, just overwhelmed with nostalgia, but just very much in the present. And I think this is a type of event that I think Boss would have liked, that we are sitting here celebrating his life, exchanging notes, and just reconnecting. And so I thank everybody again. Very grateful to the organizers, to all the speakers, to all of my classmates who are closer to me in some ways than my siblings, because we have gone through this amazing shared experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rita. This was extremely touching, and I think it's never easy sometimes. But I hope by sharing our experience and our memories, and we can somehow deal with this loss, which is strange because it's also a joyful experience. But so thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to request maybe Aditi Bhatt to come up, please. Thank you.
Everyone, this is Aditi Bhatt from Zoology Batch 1992-94. A lot has already been said about Professor Modak, so I'll just try to be extremely brief in what I want to say. My association, relatively close association with him was for 3 years, 2 years of my MSc and then 1 year of my PhD. Though I was Dr. Surendra Gaskard's student for PhD, nearly first one year of my PhD, I worked in MERL. And that was the time when I associated with Professor Modak on a daily basis. Later on, also the association continued when we used to meet for conferences, symposia, or sometimes we used to go to him to discuss our results, etc. So when I joined MSc, he started teaching us cell and molecular biology in the second semester. First few days were there in a shock. We all were in a shock because we were not quite used to having our professor walk into the class with a coffee mug in one hand and cigarette in the other. But as the shock subsided, we were totally swept off our feet by his fantastic teaching. So in those days, and even now, nothing was more interesting than chromatin structure. Nothing mattered more than transcription regulation. Nothing was more relevant than cell and molecular biology. I think this extraordinary teaching ability came out of 3 factors. First one, of course, thorough depth of the knowledge. They always say that those who know the subject inside out can explain or put it across in very simple words. And those who are not really confident about knowing it try to complicate their narrative. With Professor Modak, it was the former case. He knew it so well, and that's why he could put it in extremely simple words for us students to comprehend whatever he was trying to say. The second thing was his unique ability of storytelling. When he spoke in the class, there used to be perfect voice modulations. There used to be some dramatization. He used to give us excellent analogies to explain the concept. He used to use dusters and cables to explain certain things. I think all of you will recall that. And all that made his classes extremely interesting for all of us. And the third thing was his supreme command over English. When he spoke English, he spoke absolutely fantastic English. And that's why his classes used to go in a kind of flow, and they just carried his students with the flow. Years later, when I started teaching, I used to tell myself that he should be my role model. I should try to be like him. And then every single day I used to walk out of the class feeling extremely frustrated with myself, painfully aware of the fact how difficult it was for me to be anything like him. But you know, as they say, low aim is a crime. So I continued keeping him as my role model. Coming back to our MSc years, it was the time for us to give our preferences for the specialization. And the general understanding was that the molecular biology was the in thing, and everybody would be wanting to opt for molecular biology, and that would be the most sought after specialization. But when our class filled in the preference form, it was clear that more than half the class had opted for developmental biology as their first preference. For reasons obvious to everyone, if you took developmental biology, Modak sir would be teaching you, and you might even be working with him for your project. That was the kind of inspiration he gave us all. That was the kind of charisma he had. And that was the way he was able to generate interest in whatever he taught. On a larger scale, just the same way that he attracted all the talent to developmental biology specialization, on a larger scale, he attracted talent to the field of biological sciences in an era when computer sciences was thought to be glamorous and biological sciences was probably not thought as glamorous. But because of him, he brought that glamour to biological sciences. I was just telling Mahendra the other day. I think I will stop here, but before I conclude, I would like to remind you all of one of his quotes. Many of you might have heard it. He used to say that you all are going to die soon and I'm going to live much longer than all of you. I think he was absolutely correct. He is going to live much longer than most of us through the legacy that he's created, through his contributions to the field of science, and through this army of students that he has trained. Bless him, and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Aditi Bhatt. And I'm just going to sort of plow on and request Anand Hardikar to come to the mic, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mahendra and Chaitanya. There's been a lot that has been said already. For those of you who may not know me, I was one of Professor Modak's 1995 batch of students. So we joined in 93 and finished our masters in 95. There's already a lot of things that have been said, so I don't want to repeat. But thanks to several of our batchmates who have put together and helped compile a lot of memories and comments. We do have a WhatsApp group, and we have been interacting and bonding over it and discussing this. So it was really shocking and saddening to hear the news, but it's great to see everyone here, including several of our professors and and humbled to be able to speak here and share my thoughts. So I think what I'm going to say is, I mean, it's been really fortunate to have lived in the time that he was with us. And personally, I just think of him as a guru. So I mean, I've been fortunate to have many great gurus, including Dr. Nath, Dr. Godbole, Dr. Pal, who is here, Professor Bhonde, who couldn't join, but he was my PhD mentor. Professor Modak, or SPM, was one of those gurus who I will not just remember due to his high level of intellect or his knowledge or his charismatic personality, but he was someone who I think truly lived the meaning of being a guru. So etymologically, guru is someone who enlightens your path with knowledge. I think SPM was someone who not only trained us how to seek new information, but he also taught us how to be able to be independent researchers, to use that information and transform it into knowledge, which we can even do when we don't have any gurus around us. He was a great visionary, and I remember this one episode where he assigned me to a summer project at NCL with V. Shankar, and I came into his office and said, Professor Modak,
Anand, sorry, there was an accidental muting. Could you please unmute yourself? Sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Sorry, there was just a small problem.
Right. So I don't know where I got cut off, but
it was a 4 seconds back. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just saying that I think I was talking about my experience in the summer training program. So I went to his office and I said that I basically had put up my hand to go and have a summer training program at NCCS with Dr. Bhonde, with whom I have been trying to work since my bachelor's, washing test tubes and trying to learn a bit of tissue culture because of my interest in diabetes research. But he said, no, you need to go and learn enzyme purification with Shankar. And I've already spoken with Shankar, and I said, no, but the only reason I put my hand to stay in Pune was that I would be able to go and learn on islet cell culture with Dr. Bhonde. And he just looked straight back at me and said, if you have so much interest in diabetes, you will have your lifetime to work in this field. But as of now, you'll be learning enzyme purification. And it was so interesting that when I returned back to India and joined as a faculty at NCCS during 2006 and 2009, he said, it's good to see you and good to see that you haven't given up your passion for diabetes. So he knew what I would do, but he also knew what was necessary for my career at that point in time. So finally, I think I'd like to not only just put memories, but think that a great teacher, it's someone who can carve out a beautiful sculpture out of any stone. And SPM was one of those who clearly identified those chunks of stone within our scientific personalities that really needed to be chiseled off within just those 2 years of master's program. I know some of you have been fortunate to be there for your PhDs or MPhils and others. But even in those 2 years, we witnessed, and even today, I mean, looking at this program, we can see all the amazing scientific minds that he had shaped and created. he instilled the highest standards of scientific writing and presentation within his students. I remember when we were speaking, he told me that your first piece of data doesn't need to be the first figure in your paper. Most often it's one of the last figures of the story. And that's something that I would always remember. I also remember he used to say that every one sentence needs to have only one thought. And even today when we write scientific papers, grant applications, it reminds us of those things that he engaged us in those Sunday lectures for scientific writing and presentation. With that, I think I'll stop here. But it's great to be connected and being part of this celebration for SPM. My best wishes to Sharmila and SPM's family, and all of our thoughts are with you. So thank you again, Chaitanya and Mahindra, for giving this opportunity to share my thoughts.
Anand, thank you very much. And as Mahindra said, we're just the vessel. I am going to just take this opportunity to invite Sujata Bhargav, Dr. Sujata Bhargav from the botany department. And we'll sort of, as I said, just blindly go forth and continue in the spirit of, in a way, reliving a lot of the things that we all learned. And I think this has just been beautiful. For me, I'm enjoying this. And I don't know how I should say this. Can one enjoy someone's passing? It's almost a little too sad, but thank you very much, Anand.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sujata Bhargav, and I'm from not the same fraternity as all of you are. Namely, I'm not from zoology or biotech or the other subjects which you've mentioned. I'm from the botany department. And I'm here to tell you that Professor Modak was the head of our department, which he took over as an additional charge besides his duties at the zoology department. And he was with us for 2 years. Now, one of the first comments I heard him make when he came to our department is that, my God, why are you, all of you, so static like the trees which you study? That was a statement which was, which really knocked us off. But after that, he then decided to make things move. Okay, and he really made us run and do things. I was a young faculty at that time, and I was very enthusiastic about the changes that he tried to bring into the department in order to make this transition from a department of classical botany to a department where experimental botany took over. So, like many of you have also said, he introduced various courses on developmental biology, where he also asked some people from zoology department to teach, because biology included plants and animals as far as his thoughts went. And then he introduced courses on molecular biology and cell biology. Not that these subjects were not taught earlier, but they were hidden somewhere in, very conventional courses like plant physiology or genetics. So they didn't really belong there. You needed to have independent courses for these subjects, and he brought that about. He also brought in the quantitative aspects, like many of you have already said, he did the same in the zoology department. But these quantitative methods which he got in, and he instructed Anupam to help him out with this. And so we had some real good sessions with Anupam Saraf also in conducting this transiting from classical botany to experimental botany. Now, he also made us go to other departments, learn how to conduct the practicals from teachers who were already doing that earlier, and also asked faculty from other departments to come and talk to the students from our department. So this interchange of people, of ideas was very, very helpful in making us grow, not only as students, but also as faculty members. There was always something to learn from each other, from the people who came and the people who listened. Now, one thing was that one thing which I don't think has been touched on is that he regularly took feedback on teachers by the students, and he used to analyze it all by himself in his office in the evenings, and then the next day he would call each of us one by one and ask us and tell us what the feedback says and where we fall short and how we could improve. Now, it was fine for the younger people, but there were older people who didn't like being told that, that there still is room for improvement. Okay, so, but that's why he also made some enemies along the way, which is just typical of Modak sir. But this student feedback was a very important point for those who wanted to use this feedback as a way of improving one's teaching, to understand what the students were really saying about themselves. Now, one more thing which he did was that was very important was that he arranged for a lot of refresher courses in the department. And one of the courses I remember that he had asked me to conduct was on molecular biology. And he, while talking to the participants, he was talking on transcription, and he introduced the topic and he explained the concepts of transcription and all that. And then he suddenly pointed to me and he said that, okay, now I'll let her fill you in on the details. And he walked out. So, that one had to be totally prepared when you were around Modak sir, because you never knew when he would give you a punch. So one had to be ready at all times. Now, one of the beautiful things which he got into our department was he arranged something called the BioFest. And our students very fondly remember those BioFests, because through that, students from all these biology departments interacted, and not with respect to science at first, with respect to social interaction, but then it led on to scientific interaction, and each of them benefited from such type of interaction. So I remember some of them are friends even today. Okay, and those students would come to our department and talk to our research students over here. And so there was a lot of give and take of information, which was very, very good. So I think this summarizes what he did at the botany department. But I was fortunate to be associated with him even earlier when I did a course with him at the zoology department. And even after he left the botany department, I have been in touch with him off and on over the years. Okay, and I think that since our meetings were so rare, I don't believe that he's not amongst us. He is there somewhere, and we will interact or continue to interact in future. That's all I would like to say.
Thank you, Professor Bhargav. This was very eloquent, and I think it was also important for us that you speak, because one might get the impression just zoology and botany is where he was involved. I'm going to just continue. I'll try to avoid hearing my own voice and go to Adish. Adish is a batch senior to me from the University Department of Zoology, and I think he's somewhere in here. So
yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, great. So much has been said about SPM. It's great to relive these moments in the presence of all of us. I'll just add 2 or 3 things to this. Maybe some of these would be a bit repetitious. The thing that I personally remember, there are two things I remember distinctly. One of them was the course he introduced to us on scientific writing and scientific speaking. And to this day, a lot of the things that we learned there, we use and practice in the various ways we write, whether it is a scientific paper or a grant application or when we are discussing science with others. In this course, I remember he was, of course, he had this tough love kind of personality in the class where he would be, tough on everyone and make them learn things. But I do remember there were 2 or 3 students in our batch who were from a background where they did not have an exposure to a lot of English for that matter. And to Sohan Modak's credit, he was able to take them along. He was able to literally transform them and make them feel empowered while also taking us to a different level in the class of scientific writing that he taught. We were all lucky in not just in our interactions with him, but also the environment that he had created at the zoology department and the biotechnology department there, in terms of the several colleagues that he had as professors, many of whom are here today. We were just lucky to have experienced that environment. The other thing so what is it, I keep asking myself, what is it that I remember most distinctly about him? And the thing that always keeps coming back, which is something I also learned the hard way, is that he would relish intellectual fight. And while he would punch you, he also expected that you punch back and stand your ground if you believe strongly in your arguments. And that's something that was a learning experience, because in the Indian education system, as you come up through the school and undergraduate education, you are taught to not question your teachers, right? And so that to many people, that was a huge revelation, that not only were you expected to argue with him, you were expected to punch back. And if your argument was good, he would grant you that. And that was really amazing to see. The one last thing I would say that I distinctly remember is that after my master's, I got into a PhD program at a very nice place, which was a so-called new upcoming place. And I went to him and I told him that, look, I've got for a PhD here. This is a fantastic place. It's a new place. And he pretended to not have heard of this place. And I said, have you heard of this institute? And he said, what? And I could tell that he was pretending. He of course knew about the place. And then I said, look, this is so nice, and this is a new place. This is, and he, in his style, he waved his hand. He said, come back 20 years later and tell me. I said, what do you mean? And he said, places in a very prophetic manner. He did say that places in India start off with a bang, and they typically have a half-life of 20 years or so. And I feel those were very prophetic comments about several things. So I would like to end here and just say that we were incredibly lucky as a batch, and all of us, I'm sure, to have not just been in his presence, but also the environment that he had fostered over there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adish. And I think for many of us, this resonates so strongly. And I think as many of us are actually of some form or the other teachers, to be able to carry everyone is a thing. And I'm again going to just move on to Shraddha Goenka in the interest of time. Thank you. Thanks, Adi.
Thank you, Chaitanya. It's such a pleasure to be celebrating Dr. Modak's life after death. And It's a celebration of sorts. I think the morning has gone and we are all reconnected. And as Runa rightly pointed out some time back, that it took his death to get us all together again. Modak sir, or Duck, as we fondly called him, was larger than life. And I wouldn't miss this for anything in the world to speak a few words for his memoriam. And I just flew into the city of Hyderabad, and I am still at the airport. And I thought I wouldn't be able to attend, but here I am. He had a flamboyant personality. His cowboy hat tilted just at the right angle on his head, his leather jacket, his jeans, and perched on his lambretta, he used to make his grand entry into the zoology biotech department. The main thing was that he was very comfortable in his own style, and he tried not to conform. He never tried to hide or be modest about what he was and what he wanted to show. And this is probably the first thing I learned from him. Try not to conform and be yourself. And if you have it, flaunt it. So his classes were like an orchestrated show in which he was the hero playing to the gallery. His audience spellbound by the tales he had to tell. He had this uncanny knack of catching upon the quietest of us, the weakest of us, and making us lose all inhibitions and participate in class. His ability to articulate into words scientific experiments, phenomena, which you could picturize. It was picture vivid, as if you are being shown a YouTube video in this day and age, to make our basic concepts so clear that it was plain as daylight. He would weave in humor into his classes. I still remember him trying to explain cloning of heterologous DNA into plasmids by catching in on one of our classmates called Sri Vidya. And he went on and on. It was something like this. Just imagine Sri Vidya wearing a pink dress and sitting in a green car and coming into the university versus Sri Vidya wearing a green dress and sitting in a green car and coming to the university. You know, by the end of the class, Sri Vidya was red as a tomato. But of course, all of us understood what exactly he wanted to say. His classes on scientific writing and presentation polished our writing skills, our public speaking skills. He never shied from calling a spade a spade. And that's why he probably managed to get some enemies, angered many people, intimidated many people. But behind all this was a genuine desire to raise the bar, to inculcate a scientific temper amongst all his students, and to make them into skilled presenters. And despite his towering personality, his relationship with all his students was very personal, very endearing. He would often be seen sharing that slice of peru which we used to buy from the university roadside, or the shengdana packet, which used to very, cleverly steal from most of us. I personally had a lot of special moments with him, such as the honor of dancing with him to the song Lady in Red, cornering him for holding Sunday classes in our own version of Aapki Adalat, and of course comparing with him on stage for the ISDB cultural program. They don't make it like him anymore. And we were indeed very privileged to have him, have known him, have interacted with him, have learned from him, not only about science, but most importantly about life's lessons. My husband, Manish, also was there at the Institute at that time, and he and I have been indebted to him. He has witnessed our love story unfold, and if we may pay our tribute to him in his own style, it would be something like this. Hats off to you, Professori. Our entire batch of 1995 and 96 would like to pay our humble respects to this great teacher, this unconventional personality, our Guru. Thank you very much, Modak sir, for being there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shraddha Goenka. Thank you very much. This was spectacular, and we are so happy you could make it, being at the airport as you are. I'm going to move a little bit ahead in time to Suchitra DG, Dr. Suchitra Devi Gopinath, who is from the 99 batch of zoology. Yes, Suchitra, take it.
Thanks so much, Chaitanya. I just realized I'm probably one of the more later batches. And so, hi everyone, I'm Suchitra Gopinath, and we all joined in 1997. And some of the colleagues in my batch whom I know who are present today will probably relate to whatever I'm going to say. Devki, Umesh, Aniket, Amit, Charuta, Sandeepan, and many more. There's nothing more I can add. It's so overwhelming. It's just so, in a way, fascinating and humbling that so many of the people who have spoken before me, the various batches who joined, you describe a personality whose qualities have been undiminished as time went by, with the same intensity and rigor. So I think it's really fortunate that that we also got to witness the same personality. When we first joined, if memory serves me right, Modak sir was not around. But we had he'd been away. He'd been I think he'd gone abroad or something. But we'd all heard about him from Mahindra, of his reputation of being a strict disciplinarian, a thorough developmental biologist, and also a little bit short-tempered. And I distinctly remember the day he entered the department, and it was like waiting for a celebrity, actually. And following that that day for 2 years, I believe he has lived up to that initial impression. And I have to add here that at the same time, our admiration went up for particularly Saroj ma'am and Mahendra for being able to take this force of personality, because we saw them always constantly around him, which was also an indication that you needed to be thick-skinned. And what a lesson that was, because that served me very well as I went further on. So etched in my brain, as many people have mentioned before, is the chick embryology course. Till then, which we had a bachelor's, the BSc, we had a developmental biology course. And, the whole developmental biology course was like an exercise in imagination, where I had to just imagine everything. It's only when I saw the whole thing being drawn out expertly, smoothly, from one transparency to another, did I realize, oh my God, this is amazing. It was truly mind-blowing. For the first time, I understood the words flexure and torsion in developmental biology. Until then, it was all like just these fascinating words in dictionary, which didn't mean anything. This also helped me hugely when I went for a postdoc, and I was surrounded by people from very, very good labs. And I was able to describe many of these events in vivid detail. He was also a strict disciplinarian, and that's a feature of his behavior, as Chaitanya had said earlier, that things that we try to emulate and suddenly sort of integrates into you and becomes part of your core value. And you wonder, where did that come from? Well, now we know, as we think back and we reflect, this is where it came from. For example, when the class would begin at around sharp 8:30 a.m., he would already be there, transparency and markers in hand. He told students who were 5 minutes late, get out. I'm not so aggressive, but I maintain that rule even now. If you cannot make it on time, don't bother. And I don't take this as a quirk or a whim or a personality being difficult, but a demonstration of one's commitment. Third was, as somebody said earlier, was his insistence on using precise definition, precise language during definitions. This particular one I will never forget, again, etched in my brain, where he asked us to define developmental biology. And all of us, the zoology students and the biotech students, went on for 10 minutes trying to just define developmental biology, until one of us used the word whatever pertaining to developmental biology. The man had been looking for the word pertaining. I mean, and it was like, this again, once again served me right, which told us that you had to be very precise in your language. And of course, like everybody else said, not every, his ability to make you feel uncomfortable was part of the package deal. when I returned from a short training program from CCMB and thought I had grown a little bit too big for my shoes, and explained my project where I'd forgotten to run one of my controls, Modak sir was livid. He screamed at me from in that museum hall, asking me, WTF had I learned in CCMB? And to this day, I thank Dr. Godbole for talking him down from that mood. But my take-home message from that is no matter how fancy your experiment, don't forget the controls. He was also particularly particular on how we carried ourselves in institutions, in an institutional research environment. I cannot act it out perfectly well, but it's still in my head when he said, hold your head up high and walk straight and speak up. I mean, this was his thing. And I was just thinking, why does he care so much? Why does he care how we portray ourselves in front of another in a completely different place? So I realized that these are characteristics of a person who just really deeply cares, and these things matter to him. I'm grateful that I was put in the path of such an individual, and I can say honestly in my heart that I have never met a teacher like him ever till now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suchitra. I think the more we hear, the more we remember how much a person like this, it's almost unimaginable he's not amongst us, because he comes alive through all our ideas and thoughts. I'm again going to unfortunately plow right ahead and move to his later days in IGIB in Delhi, Mall Road. And we have, I think, Sridhar Sivasibu with us. Dr. Sridhar Sivasibu.
Hi.
Are you?
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah, I've been hearing all of you speak about Professor Modak, and it's just overwhelming. Though I had crossed paths with Dr. Modak at the Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology. I think it was 2007 through 2010, 3 years, where I had a chance to cross path with him. But clearly, he had been at IGIB in 3 capacities that I remember. One that all of you had very nicely described. One was to teach students the art of science communication, which was his primary position that he joined us for. The second was to be this sharp critic who could punch holes into every word that came out of your mouth. And it was fun to have him around, even though I was at the receiving end at the most of the times, being the only so-called developmental biologist or geneticist at IGIB during those days, who was working with model organisms and zebrafish and so on and so forth. I was at the receiving end, but I thoroughly enjoyed it because I love to have people to bounce things on, and especially when you get constructive criticisms, it's like, wow, why didn't I think of that one particular small issue to fix on my grants, on my publications, and so on. It's fantastic to have him around. But I don't think many of you really know that there was one major job that he did at IGIB beyond his teaching and punching holes in our science, which was, I think, probably it was one of his last major assignments that he took up in terms of scientific administration, which was to build up the Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, which later on, so he was basically the architect who put together the voluminous material and the writings that went into why does India need an interdisciplinary university, and why does it probably have to be outside the ambit of UGC, for the reason that it needs to constantly keep changing the manner in which it was functioning in terms of its science, which later on went on to be sanctioned by the Act of Parliament to become a full-fledged university. And I think that is one I would say something that CSR really owes him a big thanks for. Not only CSR, I think a large part of our scientific community owes to him this particular document that he put together. But other than that, what I really cherished was many things that you already have, many of you have touched upon it, so I'm not going to build upon. But what I really loved about this man was he was equally passionate about science and living in the sense, how do you live life to the fullest? His skills in the kitchen, I still remember, he used to cook food, and I have been party to his fantastic culinary talents. I think these are memories that I will live on with. Me and my colleagues at IGI, we really had a very good time while he was here. And of course, we continue our session with Professor Sharmila now. I think it was an honor to have crossed paths with Professor Modak. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sivasubu. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us. And I think as we progress in sort of time, we're going to go even further ahead to Dr. Smita Zinjarde, who is the director of the Institute of Bioinformatics and Biotechnology at Pune University. She's going to talk to us about his most recent stint as a teacher. So almost like Chiranjeevi. So please, Dr. Zinjarde, if you're there. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak on this day. A brief introduction about myself. I'm the current head of the biotechnology department, and I can see a large number of alumni in this meeting. So this is just to connect to all of you all once again, and hope that you're all welcome whenever you're in Pune to connect with us and see things that are going on in the current scenario. But we are trying to keep the legacy going on with respect to the biotechnology department. I have been also the director of Institute of Bioinformatics and Biotechnology, and that is the time when we knew about the teaching skills of Professor Modak. And as you know, universities are often staffed with respect to good faculty members. We roped in Professor Modak, and he was really very kind enough to come and teach the students of an integrated course that we offer at the Institute of Bioinformatics and Biotechnology. He wholeheartedly gave us all his support, and the students were just fascinated by his teaching skills, and we really are very, very proud to have him associated with the institute. The students not only learned developmental biology from him, but were also involved with several research activities that he was undertaking along with them. And I'm very proud to tell you that many of our students who were associated with him in the recent years are also co-authors on many papers that he has been publishing in recent years. There are lots of Natasha Kilkar and so many other students. Even right now, we have some students who are still associated with him. And I would just remember that till 2 or 3 months back when he came to the institute, and he told me that the students from the institute are doing extremely well. It just is very difficult to digest the fact that he's no longer with us, but through all of his, the fact that so many of us are joining on in this meeting says all that is needed. So it really is great that you people have organized this kind of a memoriam, and I'm very happy to be a part of this. As the head of the Department of Biotechnology, I have additional responsibility to make sure that the program that he initiated will be taken forward in the way that he envisioned. I hope he will, confer on me all the blessings that would be needed to take this program ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zinjarde. And indeed, I think it is a testament to his energy to have kept at it till the very end. And we, as former students, current teachers, colleagues, friends, I think we really appreciate this commitment, giving 100%. We're almost coming to the end now. Mahindra, do we have time for a quick jump in by Sachin, perhaps?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, Sachin, you can go. Yeah.
I'll make it very quick. This has been really eye-opening for me. So I was from the 96 to 98 batch, so with Chaitanya and Anaga, who are also on the call, and I was not supposed to speak, so this is impromptu. You all spoke really well about different aspects of his life, and it gave us at least for me, it was a feel for what transpired almost 20 years before we came into the department, and we were the beneficiaries of a process that began at that time. So I think it's really nice to see this vision played out in all your talks, and looks like the scientific communication lectures were put to good use by all of you. A really funny incident that I wanted to narrate was related to his culinary skills. Indirectly, and we had this dissection experiment where we had to pit a frog and then do some heartbeat measurements in physiology, and that in itself is a drama, as you all must know. And after the practicals were done, we cut the frog legs, and we had decided that we would actually cook them up for a nice meal in the evening. And then I remember he came to our laboratory and confiscated the frog legs and took them to his office. And then somehow we mustered the courage to go up to his office and say that, we have first dibs on it. And he basically said that, what are you going to do with it? Because I'm going to go and cook them up in a nice frog leg soup. And we somehow managed to, muscle her out of him, and then went on to the tapri outside and got it made into these chicken wings kind of a thing, barbecued chicken wings, which were not that great. So I feel like in retrospect, as some of you have said, it would have been great to have him cook those frog leg soup and enjoy it. So, and I see that Suchitra also did this with the frog legs. Yeah. So as I said, like, I don't want to take too much time. All of those attributes that you have talked about, we all have experienced them, and it's great that we could share this. The one thing that I wanted to add, and someone referenced this on the WhatsApp group, was during the Mudra event, he actually narrated a poem that he had written himself, and I only remember the first and the last piece, and I was thinking about that and just his idea of how to live life, because I don't think he cared about what happened to him after his death. We are celebrating his influence on us, and that's great, because the first sentence of that poem was Devanni Tharavale Mhane, and all of these things, Antarala Kampa Apghat, the Big Bang, apparently you attribute it to gods. And it went on, and I think it enlisted all the things that we have learned through science. And then eventually it said that if this is so, like if everything has been decided by the gods, then take all this knowledge that you have acquired, put it in a shidori kara आणि फेकून द्या अंतराळात देवांकडे. So, and he used to say this with like a really forceful narration, and I really like that. I think that kind of captures his attitude towards life, and I hope we are able to emulate what he did in our own lives going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sachin. We just continue, and maybe for a few minutes we have Virendra Shiorian, a friend's perspective for conclusion, and perhaps Sharmila, if you're around, we would love for you to end the session for us. If not, we're fine. Thank you. Is Virendra?
Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Am I audible? This is
I think.
Sharmila.
Hi, Sharmila. Sorry, yeah. I think we'll go with. Thank you, Sharmila. Would you mind closing proceedings after Virendra? Would that be okay?
Well, actually, I was just saying Virendra Shiorian is the person who
was
Tuti.
really very, very close to SPM.
So
Sohan.
we can ask
So
him to
he
close
is
this.
the person who will do justice to it. I was just asking, where is Virender? Yeah, so he's there and he will do the justice to this. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharmila. I've been all here since 7 o'clock, and I'll try my
Virender, you have to be a little more, you have to speak a little more loudly, please.
This
this is the best I can. I am on a cell phone, so I don't know. I
Oh, okay. So
is it okay
please
now?
try to holding it closer.
All right. Yeah, but then you won't see my face, so that's okay.
Oh.
Well, I'll touch upon two things because a lot has been said about Sohan, his teaching capabilities as a scientist, as a mentor, all the things. I will only touch upon two things. One was that I met him in March 1986, which is exactly 36 years now. And last I saw him about 10, 12 days prior to his passing away, which was sad, but I could have seen him much closer. Anyway, bottom line is that I came to the department not as a faculty or a student, but as an associate of Hindustan Labour Research Foundation. And Dr. A.S. Ganguly, Ashok Ganguly, chairman of Hindustan Labour, and Dr. K.K.G. Menon, director of research, came up with a proposal that they would set up a center for biotechnology in University of Pune. And they obviously selected the best person, which was Sohan Modak. And I was fortunate, courtesy Sohan, that I got the job of principal scientist. So that's how I got here. And I owe my relocation to Pune, and I live in Pune now, all because of Sohan. And as Sharmila put it, we got very close over a period of time, but HLRF thing did not materialize for wrong reasons, but he did his best. Had he done that, apart from NCCS, which is now fully running biotech, and your all other departments which he established, would have been one more feather in his cap. Now I'll switch over to speak on behalf of some of our friends who were very close to Sohan, but they were not again part of either faculty or very much known to most of you. And I'll start with Raja Belare, which Anupam touched upon. He is a former Total, which a French oil company, very senior guy. Gautam Sen, who is been part of our postings and all that. And then Srikant Patil, who is an Intel guy. Paul Ratnaswamy, former director in CL. We together put up a group called Innovidya, wherein we would go and explain to various institutes, including engineering, MBAs and all that, that what is required for them to train their students to get a job in the industry or in the market. And frankly, because of the group's total experience and total composition, wherever we went, it's not so much so students didn't like it. It was the faculty who were scared of us. So, which I felt very bad, but Sohan put it very nicely. One of the places Sohan and I spoke for 1 hour, 30 minutes each, and not a single question asked. And like some of you related that he liked to be challenged. And he said, shit, don't tell me that you guys understood everything that we spoke. Kuch to hoga jo tumhare samajh mein nahi aaya hoga. And the dean had a cheek to tell us that wo sharmate hain ji, isliye nahi sawal puch rahe. Sohan said, sharmate kyun hain? They are paying their nose to be student of symbiosis. So they have every right to ask questions, but that was Sohan for all of us. I will only narrate one part as a personality of Sohan. That was, once I told him, you're so nice, you work so hard, you do so nice things for people whom you don't really know so well, everything. But why can't you be so, little polite?
He said, कुत्ते की दुम को नली में डाल के रखो 12 साल, वो बदलेगी क्या? So don't try to change me. And I said, fine. Then one day he put it very nicely, his personality, which described him to me very well. He said, I'm like a coconut. I'm very rough and tough from outside, but I'm soft and juicy. And my response to him was, वो rough and tough देख के ही लोग भाग जाते हैं, juicy part में आते ही नहीं. So you try to make people comfortable so that they can get the juicy part of it. So that's on behalf of all my friends, colleagues. I would like to pay the homage to my dearest friend. And I put it in my post, and I repeat again that I won't worry about what went wrong, how things went bad. I will live by our good times of 36 years that I associated with him. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Virendraji. Thank you very much. I think we are slowly coming to a point that, at least from what we had planned, we have covered a huge amount of ground. We've had people who've been associated like you with him practically through his active life in professional terms in this part of the country, the world. His many students from the beginning. And if Mahindra, would you like to take over? Because if there's someone who feels that they left something unsaid, maybe this is a good opportunity.
Yeah, this is the open mic session for a few minutes, something quick. It's late, we understand.
For some, they're waking up. For some, we're about to sleep. So
this is Joyant Pal. Can I just add 1 or 2 points here?
Sure. Sure, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I've already spoken in the department during the memoriam that was held recently. I just wanted to say that there are so many things that we all have to talk about him, all plus, positive, both teaching as well as research. I just would like to point out 2 things that I have learned from him. Initially as a research associate for 3 years in the period 81 to 84, and subsequently when I joined the department, University of Pune in 1992 as a colleague. During our initial training period, the most important thing that I got impressed on his the instruction was to keep documents properly for whatever you do on a day-to-day basis. The journal writing, the requirement and the art, we learned so much from him. Till today, I practice that, and I also tell my students to maintain the record. And subsequently, during my sojourn for science, when I went to France, Paris, as well as subsequently to MIT, I still have those records with me, and I share with my students, and I tell them where I picked up these capabilities, including the gels that I dried and stuck on my notebook at MIT in the 1988 and 89. So I felt so good that this training I obtained much before, when I could see those happening abroad. And the other thing that I learned from him as a faculty member is how to contribute to the teaching to the best of your abilities. And that includes even organizing seminars, symposia. With him, I had the best training of organizing an international symposium on developmental regulation way back after my joining in 1993. That 1 year full training with him enriched me, my subsequent career, so much so that organizing seminar symposia became a kind of piece of cake for me. And that training I learned from him. Many of us also have talked about his organizing GRC and other places. And it's fantastic training. And popularizing science also one of the motives during that time, when a lot of stalwarts like Nobel laureates, John Gurdon and all came in that meeting. Suren knows. He made a kind of practice for 3-4 days to interview them and then telecast those in the UGC channel. And that was fantastic. And then he started laughing at saying that now I have become a TV figure, or something like that. And he used to enjoy doing that. And those trainings were really, really fascinating. And that I got it from him. I have had the opportunity to work with many stalwarts, as I have said, in Paris with Klaus Scherer, who was also his colleague in Lausanne, and subsequently at MIT, who was the director of MIT Harvard Health Science and Technology, a very eminent personality. But while I compare, I always would rate Sohan as #1 mentor, and ideally have learned so much from him. I owe him a lot and my tributes, and I also convey my salutations to Sharmila and his family to bear with the current loss. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pal. Thank you very much.
Hello, Chaitanya. If Professor Meva Singh is still there, may I ask him to say a few words? He knew Sohan for a very long time.
Please, please, please. Exactly. Yes, please.
Professor Meva Singh?
Is Meva around? Meva, are you there?
He's there. He's there.
Yeah,
I see
Meva,
him.
please. Meva, please.
Yes, Dr. Meva Singh, you're online and.
Namaskar, sir.
No, that is not Meva. That is Vinod Kumar. This is Meva. Meva.
Sorry.
Meva, you are on mute, Meva. Meva, can you hear us? Chaitanya, I think he's still on mute. He's not picking up the phone also.
Yeah, I tried to sort of make him unmute, but I can't do that apparently. So
Chaitanya, there is Professor Vinod Kumar, who from our department in DU. So he also knew SPM very well. So if Professor Vinod Kumar would like to say a few words.
Yes, please.
Till Professor Meva Singh joins.
No, this is me. I don't know how it is getting mixed up. Every time he gives instruction, it comes to me. Well, I know him as an academician. We met a couple of times, but he had a very lasting impression on me as a frank, honest, passionate scientist and teacher who really believed in integrity. So I met him in 2003 in a program I had organized in Gulbarga. And since then, I had become a fan of him. Although we never interacted so much, I really don't come from his field of research. But you know, a person like Professor Modak inspires people, inspired people. He will keep on inspiring people because in my 40 years of my academic career, 41 years, having worked 7 years abroad, having worked with all biggies, I know what is the value of scientist is, and especially let's make no mistakes, a person of his integrity, his conviction, his approach, his frankness. You rarely see him. So in some way I relate myself to him, and that will keep me inspiring. So I saw him first in around 87 or 88. And this description which you all showed, the chasma hanging, and then like a European scientist, and I was coming from a very remote place at that particular time. So I think he will be remembered as always, and maybe not as only developmental biologist or biotechnologist or a geology faculty from Pune, but as an international scientist and an Indian professor and scientist who really made us proud and who has given so much us to learn from, to stand for the values, even if it personally harms you, even if personally harms your academic career, even if you don't get famous as somebody gets. But at the end, this is what matters, that 120, 25 people, everybody has to say something. Everybody is waiting to say something. So thank you so much for sending me the invite. And Sarmila is a great colleague anyway. So thank you so much. And I have been listening all along from, I think, 7:20 onwards, because I had some issue. I'm not very tech savvy, but I figured it out ultimately. So thank you all. And thank you, family, and Chaitanya and others. We should have some kind of physical, meeting sometimes at the convenience, where if you wanted us, we would also come, although we are not developmental biologists, but we will watch you people talking, sharing, and that would be really fun, right? So anytime, please, if you organize anything in Pune, let me know. I for sure would like to attend it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And these are very, very strong words, and we all, I think, feel inspired by them. And this idea of an in-person meeting, along with many of the other ideas that have been floated, I think these might be something that Mahendra will, I think, say something more about. So maybe I hand over charge to Mahendra.
Chaitanya, I don't know if another senior colleague of mine would like to say just a few words.
Sure.
Professor Madan Mohan Chaturvedi, I know he has been there in the meeting.
Yes, of course.
He knew Sohan a little bit. If he's there, I don't know if he's there still.
Professor Chaturvedi?
Yeah, I'm there.
Perfect.
So thank you, Sarmila, and thank you, Chaitanya. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, I do not have as much interaction as you have said, all have said, but I have a couple of times interacted with him, both with Sarmila and some other occasions. Only one line I will tell you, we have been in the Indian academia in teaching and research for quite some time, but I've seen a rare personality who learned how to speak his feelings. He never minced a word. He really upfront, right is right. He never tried to please anybody. And he's the one who really fought for integrity and ethics in science in Indian context. That is where I really respected him a lot. And probably he was also not liked by many, because he would criticize people like anything. He would fight for the Indian science integrity and all that. So therefore, he had been a great personality. I put my comment in that one, and whatever I heard from all the students, I mean, he was a guru of a guru. Also, as I know him, he has been a true institution builder. And I also wrote in my comment, he had been, if one word has to just say about SPM, that he is a true institution builder. I'm still saying him at the age that even though his mortal body is not there, but the way I witnessed this memoriam, that he's still alive in the minds of all his students, colleagues, friends, and they are keep going to continue his legacy, and they will take the Indian context in a long way forward. So with these few words, I remember it was SPM with a great respect, and I've been one of his fans. And thank you all for giving me time to speak about something about him. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Chaturvedi. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And Sharmila, would you like to maybe add something before we end, perhaps?
It's not easy
We can then maybe we'll just close for the
me,
moment.
But I will try.
No,
I can just say comment. I can just comment about his passion for science. So he had his project students every year, and he had this last batch of project students whom I have seen. You know, they have come for discussions, etc. And while he was in hospital, you know, even in the ICU, he was dictating to me a revised version of their introduction. They had submitted some manuscript, and it was, you know, the paper, it became a paper, but there were some issues, and he wanted to submit something about that paper. And so he was revising that introduction, and he was dictating that to me in the ICU. Then he came out in the normal ward, he revised that, and then at home, just a couple of days, on the 21st and on the 22nd, you know, his project, one of his project students had come to collect some of a textbook, which I had asked from the library. So he called that student in, you know, and he started dictating to him. Now his speech had got affected because of his health condition. So the poor fellow couldn't understand all the words. So I was, saying, you know, deciphering the words that he was saying, but till the end, he was alert and he was only thinking about his work. So I have seen it, and, you know, it made me remember all the times that I used to crib about my work, that I'm not able to do what I want to do. And here he was, knowing very well that his time is up, but he didn't stop. That's all I want to share with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharmila. And I think, I'm sorry, we didn't mean to put you on a spot. And we're so happy that you could be with us. And we can only say this one thing, that as if I may speak on behalf of the people here, that we give all our energy and strength to you. And if there's anything any of us can do, please do not hesitate. And we are here. We are here. And we're just grateful. And I think we've been very, and I'm personally grateful to you particularly, and all of you for having come here and made this an evening to remember. For some it was morning, some it was night. We will, I hope, bring more to this as we go along. And I think there have been many discussions about this. But for the moment, I'm going to pass the baton to Mahendra to say a last word or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Yeah, I just want to say that we're really happy that all of us could gather here and celebrate SPM's life. Has been, I was, I think, a second last student, last in the zoology department. He had one more after me. I had great time. I possibly will not be able to speak much about that. I just want to do two things. One is that I have a message from Satish Ghatpande. So Satish was actually Professor Mudarkar's last student, but he extensively worked with SPM, and he used the alphabets of SPM's name to kind of describe him. So he says S for strong personality, O for outstanding teacher, H for honest to science, A for admired hard work, N for never failed to speak up his mind, M for multilingual, O for omniscient, I don't know how to pronounce this word, so pardon me, D for dedicated to research, A for amazing taste in wines and spirits, and K for kinetic nature. So I think that's something from Satish, and from my side, I just want to say one thing, because Suchi said that you had to be thick-skinned to be around him. That's not necessarily true. What he expected out of you was something very simple. He expected you to own your work and do it with the same passion, same vigor, same dedication that he would do it. And if you could do that, I think there were not much of a friction between you and him. And this is something I think, I'm sure Saroj ma'am will also vouch to that. And the last thing I would say is that he was loved by everyone, and he was loved because of his passion, because of his dedication, because of his teaching, and also because people knew that how he hated hypocrisy. He was a very, very honest, very brutally honest individual. Wouldn't hate to criticize you, wouldn't hate to poke fun at you to get best out of you. He would challenge you, something that has been already covered. Another thing, and the last thing, which especially matters in the Indian context, is that he remained invested in you, no matter who you were, and he never expected you to put him on the pedestal. And that's something very, very interesting, because in Indian context, most of the teachers expect that when they reach at a certain level, they need to be on the pedestal and people around them worship them. And he never expected that. So I think with that, I would stop. I would not say thank you to all of you. I'm really happy that all of you could come. And this has been a memorable occasion for all of us. I think with that, we can end this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.